his stock as an individual player has fallen as well. Like, we're talking about fucking electronic guys.
Yeah.
Well,
This dude it was like him, Nico, ropz, you know, and
Simple, yeah.
right? Like, I mean, in terms of just riflers, right?
Yeah,
like, and Simple, the best player in the world, he was like number 4 or 5 1 year as the second best player on that team. I mean, that was crazy.
Like,
it was like the perfect Robin to the Batman of Simple, and now the guy isn't even in the conversation. It's one of the biggest fall-offs we've had in a tier 1 player. So, okay, now if you're going to in-game lead, that part is understandable, but then you need to deliver in that role. And
quickly. Shoot it.
The world is changing, but one thing remains the same. Victories with 1xBet.
Sell in-game items at the best prices in just a couple of clicks. We are the biggest instant sell service for in-game items like Counter-Strike 2, Dota 2, and Rust. Easy selling process and instant withdrawal of funds to the most popular payment methods. More than 140,000 deals and 50,000 active sellers every month. Use promo code HLTV5 and get a 5% bonus on the sale of your skins. Skin Place. Sell items now.
It was more than a game. It was everything. Every single emotion on display. Not a moment missed. This was CSGO through the lens.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Counter-Strike fans around the globe, welcome to HLTV Confirmed X Talking Counter. And that's the greatest reception we've ever had. Quick shout out to our sponsors, 1xBet, remember to gamble responsibly, and Skin Place. If you're looking to sell some skins, head over to Skin Place. We've got Striker on one end, representing HLTV Confirmed, and myself. I'm like 50-50. I'm like Two-Face from Batman. And Jason and YNK representing Talking Counter. And I'm also representing Talking Counter. Yeah. So you are outnumbered by 1.5 people.
Yeah, I am feeling like I've infiltrated the competition a little bit.
Well, you're wearing a Counter-Strike t-shirt, which we can respect around
here. It's a really good start.
There you
go. Jason has a Counter-Strike hat on.
I do. What Counter-Strike stuff are you wearing, Anko? Underwear?
This is my bootcamp place.
There we go.
I'm representing.
He
has the headset.
Thongs?
Yeah, they're Counter-Strike.
yeah. Those are leather-wrapped thongs.
I had my beard trimmed by the barber that ESL paid for, so in a way, Counter-Strike got me that.
There we go. That counts.
Yeah.
Count it.
I am happier with the beard trim because it's less bushy. I've been going to the same barber for a long time.
Yeah.
And then recently I've had to go to different barbers because I haven't been home, and they've been taking more off, and I'm happier.
Okay, so you like a little bit more, like the lawn mode a little bit more.
Yeah. I feel it was too bushy before.
Jason likes the bush.
Who doesn't?
I do.
Lots of bush in Australia, Jason.
What's a bush in Australia?
No, lots of bush.
Oh, there's a ton of bush in the Australia. You guys have the biggest bush, I think, of the whole world.
You've been in the thick of the bush before.
I've been way deep into the bush.
He got lost in the bush one time.
Now,
found my way out though.
Just so everyone is aware, we're doing this live and direct from my hotel room in Katowice, Poland. Prof was on vacation. He's not here, but Striker, you're here covering everything for HLTV. Not confirmed. HLTV as you normally would. So we've combined forces. Why are you laughing, motherfucker?
I think it's funny. There's a lot of intersections going on. It's cool.
Well, what?
I'm excited by the collaboration, dude. I'm just happy to be here.
Wow. Okay. Well, thanks. Okay. What I want to do is
I feel like there's been a big breakdown in communication between you guys. I'm just like I've come in and I've just gotten a peek behind the curtain of what Talking Counter normally is, where everybody's late. People just decide last minute.
Not everybody. 2 of the 3 were on time.
All
It's
right,
true.
fair enough.
Jason
Jason is not 100% today because like the sun is down. He didn't
feel
get
great.
a buzz going. It's literally just coffee here, guys.
It's 7 p.m.
I know
he's having a coffee.
talking counter viewers are gonna be,
I've
they're
got
not
a-
gonna believe this, but it is only coffee. So he's like, he didn't get his medicine today.
I
I was
got
gonna
beer
say,
games
like,
to
what?
read.
Imagine a world where you're effectively hitting on him for getting coffee at night instead of booze, which is just like,
Welcome to my life.
Who
Yeah,
gets
Striker.
coffee at 7 p.m.?
No one's sane.
It's not true. I've seen both of you drink coffees after dinner at 9 p.m.
Yeah,
What?
but they're like at an Italian restaurant.
Oh, sure. So now there's qualifications.
And
for
there's
when I
a
like
there's
my
a
coffee.
ice cream scoop in it. It's called affogato.
Is this the segment of the show where we just inspect my life? I just wanted to have a coffee. I'm a grown adult.
Well, we're starting very talking counter, but we'll soon go very HLTV confirmed. Don't you worry about that. What I want to do is I want to get through some of the recent happenings, and the recent happenings all seem to be around the VRS, and that's perfect that Striker's here because he can answer all the questions. The two of you normally ask me, and I pretend like I know, but normally I just get all my information from Striker.
That's why I feel like when I ask you these questions, I feel like I'm actually asking Striker. I'm just hoping that you're like the go-between.
If
You
there's
bring-
a long enough delay between when you ask me the question, if it's via text, and me giving the answer, normally I've double checked with Striker.
Dude, I like Alicia's tweet. VRS takes a Harvard degree to figure it out. So
Yeah.
do you have a Harvard degree?
I do not.
Then
I
we're
don't have a
fucked.
degree at all.
Okay, well, shit.
Fuck degrees. Actually, no. Study, guys. It's probably better than what we all did. No, but let's get stuck into this. All right. Let me get my clickies going on here. So the VRS early impact is what everyone is kind of working through right now. Everyone's understanding. Well, maybe not understanding it. Everyone's seeing it unfold.
I don't think anybody understands it.
No
as
one,
we just
no one
heard,
understands
so-
it. But it is starting to unfold, right? We saw the points that came out with Bounty. You had the spreadsheet with that, and then people are seeing like the invites coming forward for Cluj and teams who are skipping, and there's a whole lot of conversation at the moment coming out of the tier 2. So this is kind of all going to meld into one. But I guess we just touched on the early impact. Everybody's confused. Are you less confused than everybody else?
I mean, my understanding is probably better than the average, even though that's, I mean, whatever.
Now, my
Is
understanding is
it
better than the
more
average.
confusing the deeper you get into the bush of the
No,
VRS?
actually, it's not really
Back to the bush.
because you do. I mean, a lot of it you kind of have to get deep into the code and figure out exactly like how things interact with each other. And even I don't have that knowledge because first of all, I'm not a coder.
Sure.
A lot of the things in the code don't actually they don't connect to what is said in the actual explanations, and like the terms that are used in the explanations are not the same terms that are used in the actual code, and so kind of like cross-checking is not easy. But I talked to the guy who implemented it
code?
for HLTV
Sure.
for us for our like live version of it, which is, I mean, it is the same formula, it just updates every match effectively. So like thanks to that, I have a better understanding, but it's mainly more about talking to the right people and knowing where to look. So I don't think it's actually that difficult. It's just more like you have to
Tedious.
take your time. You
If
have to take
anything,
your
it
time with
reveals the incompetence of different orgs and people who work in them. I mean, the only guy that I legitimately saw publicly like look like he knows what he's talking about is of course Graham.
Yeah.
Messi also from Complexity, right? But some of that stuff is just mind-boggling to me. And I think also if you thought it was going to be great from the get-go, like I don't know how anyone could think that. I think it was obvious there's going to be teething issues, and then people can, you can debate on how bad is it or whatever. But I think this is not the final form of the VRS or anything. Even we already saw even when in January or December when Valve was already giving some exceptions to TOs for some of the rules that they've implemented with VRS. And I think that's fine because in general, you want this rule book to be there to sort of prevent bad actors from doing, I don't know what, to make sure that the circuit can't be too closed. And yes, obviously at the moment, like they've had the opposite effect to some extent or arguably so. But I do think they'll have to start correcting things sooner rather than later.
I read a comment on Twitter, and it was like the only reason they did this was like an overreaction to Blast's closed circuit. It's like overreaction? Was it an overreaction?
In terms of Blast, I don't think that was an overreaction.
It's like those matches when you would talk. I don't know what's with the webcam, guys. It wasn't doing that before. Lucas, what did you say? Say it to me again. That's why I'm wearing the headphones. Is everything okay? Chad to Lucas. Oh, he's fixing. All right, Lucas is fixing.
okay.
So don't worry about the blinking.
I knew it wasn't us.
But with that,
Couldn't
like
have been.
Valve, when you would talk to them, they would label those type of matches as exhibition matches, right? That's where I won't say the Valve guy's name.
It's funny.
but-
That's the first time you've said that because I've heard that exact terminology from you before, but you've never said that this was actually parroting Valve's words.
Well, sometimes you like to little bit sly. I like to borrow opinions every now and again, just like I do from Reddit.
Fair enough.
But like the thing is, we know this is going to take a while to adjust. The problem is the fallout is being felt by the players, the orgs, and the teams immediately. Right? We've started to see some negative things happening. Endpoint's one of them, just coming out, and they're no longer functioning. And a lot of people putting this to the changes that have happened with the circuit. But other than, I'm going to say it, other than Imperial Female, right? Are there any teams who were in Bounty and in Katowice who probably otherwise shouldn't have been? Who do we think we were missing? Anybody?
I mean, you can probably argue it's about some of the people on the kind of on the edges, right? Or how the seating worked out with,
Sure.
Teams like Mongolz being so far up in the ranking and stuff like that. Some of these little kind of you can call them details, I guess, but otherwise, well, nobody comes to mind at the
Right,
moment.
that's the thing.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of teams in these tournaments now too, though. So like, you get a lot of leeway in terms of
Yeah.
making sure you have all the proper.
Well, Bounty
teams
was
there.
32. This
Yeah.
is 24, but this is normally 24. So I think that the question is more about the possible moves up. Let's get into the tier 2 stuff in a second. Let's jump into the Cluj skips and talk a little bit about that, because a bunch of us have gotten wind that teams like Liquid, NAVI, Vitality, who else am I forgetting? G2. There's the Game Allegiance skipped, but that was for a different reason.
Yep.
There was one more team that skipped. NAVI,
Liquid.
G2.
Liquid.
You said
one
Liquid's a
more.
big one.
One more. G2, NAVI,
Furia.
Liquid.
Furia pulled
Furia
out.
pulled out last
Spirit
minute.
also
Vitality.
didn't go.
Spirit
Spirit also didn't go.
But Spirit aren't part of the Partner League cabal.
No.
So why are they not doing it?
As far as I understand, for them, it was just the under kind of. I mean, we've seen them skip tournaments before, right? So I think this one was just
Yeah.
in the wrong place for them, and so
Don't they like money?
Well,
But it's strange that they would skip that over Pro League,
Right?
because
It's a
Pro League
studio
is
event.
also longer in theory.
Yeah.
Endless money.
I mean, Romania's also closer at that time. I mean, all of it. I'm just speculating at this point. I haven't actually talked to them to ask. I should have, to be honest, because I know the reasons for all the other teams, but not them specifically. So
All right. So the reason, Striker.
you were just about to
got his spoon out. He's got his spoon out.
that point.
So you
I
guys,
mean,
do you guys as well on your podcast?
What's right?
He just sits there and fucking stirs his pot.
Yeah, that's what he does.
Yeah.
Not
But
as much.
it's funny. But you know how it's funny that
much.
he started off that point and he was just about to say it, and then I'm like handing it off to you, and you just put it on me.
I called it a cabal.
Yeah.
That's probably enough.
I mean, that's effectively what's happening. Yeah.
which is like, okay, so we should probably be careful when we talk about this stuff. Because
We shouldn't. We're not fucking ambassadors of any of the teams.
No, but what I mean is, if we're throwing out wild accusations, Yanko, that are unfounded,
Come with the
maybe we'll
king,
get
best on
sued.
this.
You want to get
That's-
sued?
But that's the most fun part about it. That and speculating about the VRS without knowing how it actually works.
Oh, you can't do that anymore. He's here, so
Yeah.
now you can ask all the questions. So, right,
Look, I mean, we knew we were talking about this for the last 2 months, right?
we said it
How
last year. We
we've
said a lot
we've
of them
been
were going to
saying
skip
it
the
for
PGL
fucking
events.
months now.
Yeah.
It was
That's-
a-
we know which that the top teams are not happy with PGL just putting everything in the prize pool, right? And we are seeing the results of that. That's effectively what's happening here. They wanted some revenue share. They didn't end up getting it, so they're skipping PGL. Whether they're going to keep skipping PGL, I mean, for some of the teams, I outlined it in my column. I mean, that could be pretty fucking disastrous now that even Furia just dropped out, right? Like those two teams.
But FaZe
they
didn't.
no?
FaZe is the exception.
FaZe, no, but we know how FaZe operates. They've always been kind of whatever.
I think-
Players have all the say that they want.
I think it was more sort of miscommunication within the FaZe camp than it was sort of that they're not a part of
The cabal.
the
Right.
conversation.
What do you reckon their secret society's called?
Team Louvre?
They could at least be original.
But I think, listen, I think
partner
the
boys.
underlying
Spectre.
problem, the underlying problem is deeper than that. The underlying problem is sustainability in esports / Counter-Strike esports, right? For these orgs are not doing this because they hate PGL and they love VSL and Blast. They're doing it for money reasons,
Of course, yeah.
right? And it goes back to 2016, 17, venture capital coming in, everyone overpaying for players and inflating players' salaries. Where I don't know if you guys ever had this, but when I talk to someone unfamiliar with esports and they ask me, "Oh, how much are the players getting? They're getting paid? Oh, a lot." Right, and that's it. Yeah, but the prize money goes to the teams, right? I'm like, no, actually, the players get 90%, 85% of the prize money, and they're like, wait, so how does the club make money? Like, that's a very good
That's
question,
a good question, right?
right? So, and that's what Silvio said in his tweet too, where it maybe feels like either the salaries are too high for the players, or you can't have it both ways, right? Stickers are a different conversation. They have their own private stickers for the majors as well, and I was always for, even when I was coaching, it was a little bit difficult when players have such a high base salary regardless of your results. There's not too many levers you can pull to sort of motivate them and impact their motivation to some extent. I was always for make the base salary less, make the incentives higher. So, if you're the number one team in the world and you're winning tournaments, you're actually making more than you would otherwise. But if you're not really performing, then why would be spent, a team on a tier 1 team for the org, that's like a couple of $1 million a year just on salary. And you think they get that much back through even the some of the rev share or the prize money or the stickers? I mean,
especially this year after we've kind of had this
Shanghai
sort of a movement.
stickers
I mean that's part of it as well. I mean, of
Shanghai
course,
stickers are
stickers
terrible.
Also, Copenhagen weren't that great before that, and this was just kind of a continuation of the trend, right? So that's part of it. But also, I mean, we had Messio's on the podcast, I don't know, 2 months ago, 1 month ago, something like that.
2 months, I think.
He was effectively saying, first of all, more people get a share of the pie, and the pie is smaller. So like, there's less money going into the kind of whatever the incentive structures effectively that from both ESL and Blast. And then, PGL is not doing none of it, right? And so how does that affect the organizations who, as you say, have to pay whatever, 100K at the minimum in just salaries every month, So like, it's obviously going to be difficult. But I mean, I had some crazy conversations recently about this, man. Like, it's just like the level of lack of self-reflection about the fact that the organizations were the ones who got us to this position in the first place, and them saying like, but how can we pay for these salaries? I'm like, you were the ones who gave them those salaries in the first place.
It's hilarious how they can gang up to when it comes to TOs and attending tournaments, but they can't do that to sort of say, hey, why don't we stop paying these dudes so much,
the exact
right?
same point like yesterday, man. It's just
we can easily blame Call of Duty for this.
Oh,
it's great.
Come on, Jason.
It's easy. We can blame Call of Duty because it was the COD orgs that came in 2016. Those are the ones who had the initial increase. And once one org comes in and says we're going to pay 15,000 instead of 7,000, everyone's going to start.
Only one of them stayed though. It was only FaZe that stayed.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They all came in. They all bumped up the salaries and all fucked
Remember
up.
MVS?
That's true. Shout out to FaZe though. They stayed. Good on you, FaZe. Good stuff, FaZe. Okay.
Mostly because they were embroiled in insane business battles behind the scenes. But yeah.
Well,
they're still there.
Shout out to FaZe.
Still trucking along. The most entertaining team in Counter-Strike.
It's true.
Yeah.
Confirmed by some of the results. We'll get to the results soon of Katowice. I just want to blast through this because once we're through Skinionaire, we're going to just become more free-flowy.
All right.
Right. So it'll be more of what you two are used to. But the HLTV Confirmed users are used to me being more structured, which you guys know how much I love structure. Timestamps are my favorite.
You're a big fan of structure.
Yeah. Okay. So the Cluj skips, we just spoke about that. I'll probably do an episode with you guys and with you guys before Cluj anyway. We're planning on doing an episode on Monday night, which is about to get into the next topics regarding if we get home and everything works out. We're hoping to really focus in on the tier 2 fallout that we've been seeing and talking VRS again and getting some people who are feeling impacted by that on the show to have them talk for 10-15 minutes, get their point across, and then go from there.
Hello, Snappy.
Snappy would be one of them. Yeah, maybe we get Messi Oso back on.
How do you know that?
He was
bitching on Twitter again. Bitching is a bit too harsh. He was voicing his valid concerns publicly. Shout out Snappy one time.
The next one that I just want to quickly tick off the list before the tier 2 stuff though is to do with the February invite cutoff. Now, you had a little tweet thread with Mark Winther where he didn't think that it was going to be a mid-event thing, but turns out you were right.
Well, it would have always been a mid-event thing, but his point was that it was not supposed to include the teams that finished Katowice already. Effectively, and I think he also did, I mean, I would imagine they also are not super happy about the play-in being kind of a separate own thing. I mean, that's obviously how we kind of deal with that, and that partly is also how Valve deals with that as a result. But his thinking was more, I don't know if you two guys are aware of this, if you saw this conversation, was that teams who finished the event and have had their prizes
Yeah.
set have the entire impact of the tournament on the VRS, while the ones that are still alive have their
Yeah.
prize money effectively at zero out of this tournament because they haven't finished.
Yeah.
They haven't been assigned
That's a fair
a
point.
minimum amount, right? And so that's a valid argument, because there will be situations where you would be incentivized to lose the game just so you can get those points as soon as possible. Because if you're
Yeah.
somewhere on that edge, you would literally be better off if you lose the game and get
Get the
that prize
points.
money and get those few little points.
Yeah.
We saw Gamer Legion miss out on 1 point less, 0.4
But
of a point, or something
that's
like
even
that.
more like both of those things are mental. What's mental is that on the day it's announced, if the game finished by the time it's
Yeah.
announced, it counts. And so if the Gamer Legion was playing the Mongolz in the third slot, not in the second one, because they lost like 3.5
Yeah,
points. Because of that loss, if their game was still going on, they wouldn't have lost.
They would
Like
have been
that's
12,
that's
yeah.
absurd. Like these
That's
things
kinda
are just
crazy, yeah.
absurd, and especially the stuff about prize money. If you get eliminated, it counts. I feel like the event should either count or not
Yeah.
if it's in the middle of it.
I will say that I know that Valve are aware of this, and they did promise that they would basically do only count the event once the whole thing finishes. My suggestion to them was just to assign teams the minimum prize money, right? But that doesn't really get rid of the issue that you pointed out, that if it's mid match day, that there's going to be some matches that finish, some matches that don't, and literally where you get put on that day could decide whether you make it or not. So I think this solution is probably easier, so we can just kind of forget that this ever happened. But yeah, I mean, I know that that's in the works. That probably, I would imagine, by the next tournament or like somewhere very soon, it's going to be fixed.
So what are we saying the solution is?
The solution is they will only include the event once it finishes.
So when it was drawn on Monday, which was what?
Yeah, so it'd be a week late essentially.
Monday was the 4th.
It'd be a week
Third?
later. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
third, I think.
but when it was drawn on Monday the 3rd, any results from Katowice would not have counted.
Yeah.
But how does that work with the way that the semantics and the rules, and even the way that you structure events on your website? How would that impact it? So, for example, you guys call it the play-in,
Yeah.
but ESL call it stage 1.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it doesn't really matter how we call it, what we call it. It's just about how Valve looks at it, right? I mean,
so how would you think Valve would
obviously,
look at that?
I mean, look, at the moment, as far as I can tell, they're just copying kind of our format, right?
So
Because
they would
don't-
count.
So they would just count it as its own tournament, obviously, and that's what happened even in the update, in the last update. Whether that's going to be part of that solution, that I'm talking about, I'm not actually sure. Whether it would just be, whether they would just still kind of look at it the same way we do. They've also kind of, I've had a talk with them that they would kind of appreciate something that would connect events together, so that they can at least make those choices, I guess. But I don't actually know whether that's their thinking behind it, because I mean, by the definition of the rulebook, it is a close qualifier. Stage 1 may play, and whatever it is, by the literal definition of the Valve rules, it is a close qualifier.
That was the semantics we were talking about, right? In the way that these guys, like, that was the online portion of Bounty, even though it's just a straight line bracket. Well, it wasn't a straight line bracket because of the way the seeding works. So you're an idiot, Chad. But it was just a 32-team bracket. But the first couple of games were like the qualifier for the LAN portion.
Yeah,
right? That's how these tiers.
But also, like, that's also something that you kind of have to separate, also, even just for the online versus LAN part, right? Because they have the LAN wins part of it. So there's got to be some separation there, right? Or at least you have to take it into account.
What
in
about
some way.
Cluj though? So Cluj is group stage.
It is the same thing for us.
Same thing.
I mean, that's one tournament. I mean, effectively, that's like stage 2 and playoffs in Katowice, right? I mean, we have that as one tournament as well.
So, but
this is all so stupid.
But then, in that way,
Thanks, Jason, for your contribution.
I mean, like, just listening to it, like, what am I supposed to say? This is also, our entire scene is set up on technicalities of what words you use.
But there could be
it's not even. But it's not actually, because it's not, because the way we deal with it is like whatever. Of course, I mean, we have our own reasons behind it. Part of it is ranking. Part of it is just having stats, having it separated by stats. Like, what we do with it has nothing to do with how we think it should be dealt with on the VRS. We just do it for our own purposes and all that stuff. Of course, like, for usability and whatever, it's probably better if we just have it in one place and like everybody can just click on one tournament and it all shows
the play
all that
into the context filter. That's always fun.
Yeah, exactly. Like that, those sort of things, like, from my perspective, like, we might as well just kind of connect it in some way at least, right? But how we deal with it, it's not like our opinion on how everything should be handled.
I was just going to say, though, should it be broken up more then? Should it be broken up into like once the group stage of Katowice ends, or once the group stage of Cluj ends, then we break it up, and now that's like separate from playoffs?
But I don't see why, because I mean, at that point, you have everybody, all the teams that have been invited already taking part, right? So you've already. That's not like in no way is that a qualifying part or anything like that. Of course, you can call it a qualifier for the playoffs, but it's not. But you have like that whole thing.
You've activated my trap card.
Of course, I mean, I know you can. But at that point, you have all the teams participating, right? That's not the case for Katowice. That's not the case for the second stage of the major now, even. So that's effectively how it is. And I know that people have been like, yeah, but opening stage of the major is then a close qualifier. I'm like, well, technically it is.
The open so stage 1 and stage 2
are effectively. I mean, yeah, it's weird because it's like close qualifier part 1, part 2, whatever. I don't know what you want to call it, but it is. It is not the main tournament, even in ropz eyes. I mean, clearly, because they don't put everybody in the same stage, right? They don't put everybody starting from the same point. And you can even see like the logic behind it is that kind of it eliminates a lot of useless games, right? I mean, you just don't have a lot of those super lopsided matches between whatever Spirit and number 32 on the ranking, that's 99% of the time is going to go one way, right? And so that's how they've structured the major, and you can see the reasoning behind it. And so even in their eyes, to some level, it is a qualifying part or playing part.
Someone in chat has made a very good suggestion. Malpa SCP has said semifinals are just a qualifier to the finals.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, where do you stop? I mean, I think it is kind of nice separation to just have it whenever you have everybody starting at the same point, then that's the main part of the tournament, right? I mean, I think that's entirely logical, and that's how we've also dealt with kind of identifying what the major is, right? For us, historically, at least. I mean, we've changed that terminology in some way because everybody just calls them the whole thing major now. We just had to adapt to that, but that's just how we look at it.
How did we fuck it up so hard? Why are we running tournaments with 24 teams? And like, actually, we're not running that. Actually, that's, I guess, the point. We don't have a 24-team tournament. We have multiple 16-team tournaments, right? It's like, which is so silly, and it's all because of the fucking Swiss format, bro. And instead of just, we could have everyone play at the same time if it were a different format.
No, you could have everybody play at the same time with 32 teams as well.
That's true.
Yeah, you could.
At the major, at least. I mean, of course, logistically,
or we could
difficult,
also not have 16 playoffs.
That's
not 16.
Yeah.
But that's more skipping, right? Like, and that's that.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
I'm joking.
Get away with it.
Yeah. Well, okay. We don't do format talk on this show. Oh, actually, no. We do format talk on this show, but we don't do format talk on the other show because he starts to get drunk.
Yeah, dude, just don't do format.
So we'll stay away from the formats.
All right.
But yeah, we just discussed some of the particulars with that cutoff, the solution that they could have, and the problems that have come out because of that. Okay. Nice little recap there. Now, the tier 2 fallout, I'll be honest, I just read a lot of tweets of people complaining, and I didn't even bother to try and understand it because I'm still trying to wrap my head around what it means for tier 1. But it isn't a lot of the things that we already thought were going to be problems. It's going to be hard for tier 2 teams to move up. Didn't we say, like, we thought the NIP
last year.
Yeah. We did a what are the odds that NIP would make the MRQ?
Yeah.
And those odds are pretty low. Like, I don't know how they're meant to get there within one season.
Yeah.
Maybe for next season, you have to win a qualifier and then play in a big event and get good results.
But that's not necessarily tier 2, right? That's teams starting entirely from scratch. Of course, they kind of went around the system, right? And they used the whole standing thing with Jax
situation,
and kind of cheated their way to a core or whatever wildcard invites, right? So for them, even they're starting ahead of at some point, right? But it's more the new teams and teams that are unranked or are starting from complete zero. That's the problem.
Yeah, but if those teams, if you can't make the progress as a brand new team, like you have to.
I mean that's 100% a valid concern. But I was just kind of thinking about this and trying to wrap my head around how much this has actually gotten worse over time, and I actually got to a point where I feel like we're still at a better point now than we have been before, because ESL removed some of their open qualifiers. I mean, most of them even to Katowice Cologne have none, and 2 of their IEMs have none. So it's kind of like EPL has this fucking structure from ESEA leagues and all that stuff, and then Dallas is the only other one that has qualifiers, right? But then we had PGLs change their entire model to actually include some open qualifiers and a huge close qualifiers that, like, there's data that Valve would ever want, man. In those close qualifiers, there's plenty of opportunity for turnover. So I actually don't think, from an open qualifier perspective, I don't think we're worse off than last year. I mean, we had, if I would compare it now, I haven't actually looked at it, but I remember, like, at the beginning of this whole process when PGL was still entirely invite based, right?
Yeah,
I was comparing the
fuck,
previous
we're
year
screwed,
to this
yeah.
year, and it was like the difference was diametral, man.
So
It
like
was huge.
you're saying we have like similar level of open similar number of open qualifiers this year coming than we did
I
last year. For
I would have to go back and check the math, but I don't think we're that far off,
We
to
have
be
I mean,
more
honest.
I'll give you the ballpark as well.
Yeah.
I mean, does that matter if the ability to go from tier 2 to tier 1 is more closed off than ever?
But I don't think that's also. I also don't think that's the case, because a lot of these teams, I mean, you can see it from Bounty, right? That's already one place where top 32 teams, like if you get to the LAN and you get one win there, even if you just get to the LAN as a top 32 team, that like you will have to take some upsets, right? Because of the way that the format was structured, with you take bounties of the big teams.
Right.
You cause one upset, bro, you shoot up very quickly. You get into the invite cycle for Cluj instantly. If you're a top 32 team, especially because of some of the other tier 2, tier 1 teams skipping, you have, let's say, from number 6 to 22 are straight into Cluj, right? And into further PGL tournaments, you have whatever, the first 12 are going to go straight to the main event, and then the next 30 in each region are going to the close qualifier. That's another opportunity for anybody to go and play against the big dogs and actually earn their way to the big tournaments, right? And that's actually the way that it works for a lot of these events now. So I don't think the problem is tier 1. I think effectively we're much better off than we were before, because the opportunity for turnover, the opportunity for these teams to lose their spots. I mean, we see it with like teams like Astralis. They would have had all the spots guaranteed basically the entire time. That's not going to happen this year, I can tell you that much, especially now that they fucked it in Katowice.
Yeah.
They're going to lose out on some of those spots, right? And so that's on automatically every team that does that, every team that falls out of that competition, that's more opportunities for teams below. And very quickly, I mean, the ranking works in a way where it is much more power than we used to have before. Within 3 months, you can have a lot of turnover if you fuck up multiple events in a row. We will see it with Liquid. We will see it with Furia. If they don't do well in EPL, they will drop out of that invite cycle very quickly.
Yeah.
So I think tier 1 and tier 2, we're fine, because the turnover is going to be huge at some point if you don't really confirm your results. Top 5 is always going to be fine, but anything below that could be a lot of changes,
Yeah.
So I think it's the tier 3 new teams, new cores, kind of the open qualifier. I can at least understand where the problem is, because of that lack of data, lack of opportunities, maybe to move up.
It feels like the issue is not so much like whether a team from nowhere can make a tier 1 event. Like, you have opportunities. I just think for these orgs relying on having to make open qualifiers to attend these tournaments and then obviously getting some upsets and moving up in the rankings, I think that's what they have an issue with, that with the restrictions, that VRS puts on someone like CCT, then is does their business model change then if they have to run it?
Changed though. Like, CCT runs the exact same format that they have before. Nothing's changed, just the fact that they are forced to invite certain teams, right?
Well, yeah, that's why
teams is the big one, right?
I mean, that's if anything, we are actually in a better place, because they're not shadow banning teams that whether they were deserted or not, we don't know, right?
Right.
But
sure,
we don't have that happening.
Perhaps they would invite teams that maybe are not, wouldn't be in the ranking, but they would bring them more viewership, right? Because
but is that a good thing? I mean, that's not meritocracy, right? That's just getting a leg up, and that's what teams have been used to, and that's exactly what Valve is trying to get away.
Yeah, but
we love that
it's
shit.
fine to get away from that in tier 1, but like in tier 3, I think that's where the issue is. Like, there's not that many just tournaments for tier 2/tier 3 teams where they could like accrue points, and without having to play a tier 1 team, maybe if they win enough smaller ones, that could still be enough for them to break through, right? I think that's where the complaint comes from. It's like, sure, there is enough open qualifiers, but those are not, obviously not easy.
Of course.
I'm not saying they should be easy, but it's, why can't we just have a tournament where we'll have from the 24th to the 40th place, teams, and then there'll be some nice prize money there where, okay, if we win a couple of these, then maybe we get from 24 to 16, and we're that cutoff team to.
But I think that happens, right? I mean, there's opportunity for that, because we have CCTs happening literally every month. That's like a couple of them even overlapping at times, right? So like these events are there. It's more about exactly what's like the position that NAVI would have been had they not kind of gone around the system, right? With Jax. Any team that decides to put together a team, you can have fucking Nico, Monasi, and Zaiwu come together in the same team with 2 randoms, and they would have to start from scratch, just the same as everybody else. And of course, they would have also the wild card because they are top 8, whatever. Like they would actually work with the wild card, but let's say just for the argument's sake, that would be a team that just wouldn't be able to get started anywhere, So those teams are the ones that I can understand where it takes a long time for you to get somewhere because you have to get ranked in the first place, and so that's the biggest part.
This is the crux of the issue, though. The reason we're talking about this right now is because there's been a bit more of an uproar on Twitter within the last 24 to 48 hours, right? That's why this is now a talking point. It's because NIP threats made a tweet, Snappy's made a tweet, right? They're kicking up a bit of a fuss about things.
Endpoints bowed out of Counter-Strike altogether, like the Team Tour example.
Yeah, that's a big loss, of course.
I saw Copenhagen Wolves made a lengthy tweet about the VRS as well.
Yeah.
But the long and the short of this is, and I don't want to boil it all down to one thing and put everybody in the same category, but like I said, I didn't sit there and read all of the stuff that they were talking about, and I don't understand enough on their level of what they're going through. But when you read that stuff, is there actually a problem that they're complaining about?
I think, honestly, a lot of it is kind of an issue of what happened at the start of the year where CCT and Yella just didn't comply. They got the rig and rank status pulled. I think that's a big kind of point that everybody's making, that they can't play in anything ranked. They would have been able to if the TOs just did what they were supposed to, and they actually hosted the tournament as they were supposed to based on the rules. CCT tried to get around the big rule of you can't shadow ban teams, you have to announce it. They didn't. Yella also had just completely ignored the fact that they need to announce things in advance and just invited the wrong teams as well. Just decided to skip some teams for no reason. Absolutely against the rules, something they should have foreseen, something they should have done well in the first place. I understand, not all the TOs have the same access to Valve and to check certain things, but a lot of these things are very simple. I mean, you just can't skip invites. You just can't decide which teams attend your teams.
That was actually the most clear factor of the VRS.
Exactly. And so if that didn't happen, then we would have already had tier 2 events happening for teams up to like top 50, let's say, so that already by that point they would have had plenty to play, and more CCTs are happening now. The open qualifiers for Dallas are coming up, close qualifier for Dallas is coming up, Risings are happening now where that's into the Blast Opens. Close qualifiers for PGLs are going to be coming up soon, so like there's like at this point actually it's not that bad.
There's no problem.
Well, also no disrespect, but when the fuck did Copenhagen Wolves or Endpoint qualify for fuck all in the last 5 years? They made one Pro League, which is where we saw Nerds for the first time, and ended up doing did pretty well for himself. So it's you guys are complaining about the road is much tougher for you to get to somewhere where you've never gotten to before.
Well, let's also highlight the last 5 years were like 2 years of COVID where everything was extremely locked down, and then we saw the Louvre agreement, the Blast agreements, everything was extremely locked down.
Well, it wasn't extremely locked down.
That was part of the issue of creating this VRS was to open that back up.
As the number one ESO show, correct yourself, Blast was extremely locked down, ESO was not. ESO
was still relative. It was a little bit.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was. There's avenues to get in.
There was shitloads of avenues
to get in.
But
let's not act like it's not a little bit locked down.
And region. No, of course, I didn't say it wasn't a little. You said extremely. I'm pushing back on the word extremely.
Okay, fair, sure.
Let's say half of it.
Words matter, Jason.
Sorry, I clumped them together.
We're in the semantics era.
Yes, apparently we are.
Right.
Tournaments and analysts alike.
Really important.
But yeah, just to get back to my point though, like I think had that not happened, we would really be in a place where the biggest problem is the teams that are just starting from nothing. Because for those teams to get ranks or to get into matches that are ranked is very difficult, because you effectively do have to start, you have to play through open qualifiers. We don't cover all of them. I think this is something that I will actually get into as well at some point. We don't cover all of the open qualifiers. Obviously, we can't fucking cover 1,000 team brackets and whatever. We only cover them from a certain point. Some of them we don't even at all, because just we have to prioritize in some way, right? So those don't really turn up on the ranking. And then, so where do you go? Like you have to go through an entire open qualifier to even get into the close qualifier, which we will then cover. And you're going to play 3 games there? You need 10 games to be ranked. Right, so that's the problem. That is where I understand 100%. Every organization that wants to come into the space and they're like, okay, I'm gonna pick this player, but this player, that player, because I like them and I think they will work. It will take you an entire season at least, maybe even just to get ranked, unless you really just blow up from the first place, and you just go from from some open qualifier, you go straight to some LAN, you do well enough there to get some points, right? And instantly you're going to be on the ranking. You're going to enter at least the tier 2 circuit, if not already the tier 1, if you just blow up from the beginning, right? But if you want to be somewhat consistent, it's going to take you fucking forever. It's going to take you a long time.
Buckethead, and Buckethead's a trusty man.
All right.
He says only 15 teams signed up for the North American Blast Open qualifier.
Yeah, that tells you something too, right?
NA's dead.
Well, I think they had an issue with the Asian one as well, didn't they? Like you could only sign up for like their Asian Open qualifier if you had like a mainland Chinese number. So a bunch of like a bunch of teams couldn't actually sign up for the qualifier.
I didn't see that.
What's that got to do with North America, Jason?
Nothing.
Why are
It's
you
just the
evading
same-
again?
It's the same situation, just a different region. That's why I brought it up.
Yeah.
It's not the same. There's no restrictions for NA. There's just no teams. Nothing's preventing people from signing up.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you don't need a fucking social security number to sign up for an NA qualifier.
just an
I don't know.
asshole tonight? Why
No,
is this
today-
happening here?
today it's all about-
You're very vulnerable at the moment.
Why?
Well, you've been forgetting things. You've been rocking up late. You're having 7 p.m. coffees.
What was your last checkup?
I don't know. I don't know what
This
this
is
gang.
unreal. You guys can do
this
this
is
without me.
ganging
I'll
up on
leave.
you guys.
It's fine. I'll go play some Counter-Strike.
Wow. No, you can't. You guys are going out for dinner.
Well, I don't have to play with Hugo.
Okay. Well, that's true. But sometimes it's just fun.
I thought he wanted to be here.
Yeah,
You're just.
I did.
Yeah,
about
you're the little guy this
15
time.
minutes
I don't know
ago,
what
and
happened.
Now I
Where's your
don't even
watch?
want to be here. So let's
You
rock.
forgot
and
your
roll.
watch as well?
That's okay.
Oh man.
So look, we're gonna do. We're gonna try and do an episode. Jason, it's all right. Take a deep breath, okay?
See,
All right,
you wish that was
here's
an
one more
Irish
thing I'll
coffee
say
right
about
now.
this,
Did you
okay?
bring the whiskey?
Boys, can we do the show?
Here's one more thing I'll
Fuck
say,
is
right?
happening?
I don't know if you wanted to pass on, whatever. Obviously, like there's a problem that we are a bottleneck. We, as in, I will refer to we as HLTV, because
We knew it. We've been saying it for years.
right. Because exactly whatever is not on HLTV is not going to end up on the VRS, right? And that, like, obviously we can't be held responsible for that. We have our own priorities. Fuck off, Chad.
It feels
We
like you're
cannot.
making yourself
We cannot.
responsible right
Wait,
now.
what?
Valve take their data from them.
Really?
Where else they get the data from?
They're fucking Valve. It's their game.
What do you think they're monitoring every game of Counter-Strike on private servers?
No.
This is a massive revelation to people. I
But-
guess I thought,
But still,
this was kind
it's
of
like, how is that reasonable to expect like a private company to do your work for you, like sort
I
of,
don't know.
or for it to be in their hands?
I don't know,
At
man.
least pay HLTV some money to hire more people
Maybe
so they have
do.
more
You
staff.
don't know.
they don't.
Why do you
I
think
can
I'm
tell
on the
you.
payroll?
I can tell you we're not getting anything for this.
Well,
so
you
let's
guys,
just say that.
we've learned a
Yet.
lesson lately. We've learned a lesson. You shouldn't do work for free.
Yeah.
There you go.
Let them squirm, striker.
Well, we're
Yeah,
not doing
let it
that,
burn,
but that's
Striker.
exactly my point, right? Like, we're not. I mean, we are doing some work on top, but that's more like in just for kind of ensuring that the circuit functions as it was intended to. Because, like, obviously, we had to check a lot of these kind of invites, right? And that was more from a concern, from a perspective of concern for actually upholding what we set out to do with the rules that
Wait,
were
I'm
put
sorry.
in place, right?
Because I need some
Okay,
further
go-
clarification.
Take your
right?
time. Take your time.
So, like, a qualifier is, it's a ranked event, it's a qualifier, right?
Yes.
But unless you guys are covering it,
It's not
they
gonna
don't
end
know
up
it
on the VRS.
happens,
Yes.
and then it's not included in the ranking.
Yes. That is 100% what I'm saying.
Holy shit, HLTV is the most powerful entity in Counter-Strike.
Man, you knew it all.
Still.
It's never changed.
But that's
Still.
exactly what I was getting into, right? And like we don't have infinite resources. We have our reasons for doing that, right? I mean, our coverage team they don't have infinite people. We don't have infinite resources to even put all this up on the site or even have in the back end, even if we don't want to kind of put it all in actual like hot matches, we would just have like millions of things on the side, so there's plenty of reasons why we do that, and we can't really be held responsible for how it impacts the scene because I mean, we're our own company, right? Like, we're not beholden to Valve. We're not doing everything just on their own whim, and so we're just functioning as we are at the moment, and Valve are just taking whatever we give them as their basis for their ranking, right? But that effectively, I think, is where the crux of the issue is about a lot of this data issue and a lot of the teams complaining that they can't get enough ranking. I mean, Snappy was talking about it. They played, I don't know what it was, 6 games in the open qualifier. They won all of them. They played some pretty decent teams along the way. It was like top 50 to 80 maybe teams or so that they played along the way and beat. And, that would have been data for the ranking that they never got. They would have been ranked by now because they're still not with their own lineup because they just haven't played enough matches. You have to have 10 matches to be ranked. So that bottleneck is part of the problem, and that's just something that I think down the line Valve will probably have to adjust and find other ways to get all this data, whether it is just coming to the TOs and saying, okay, just give us all the demos and we're just going to parse our results from all of that, like once your tournament finishes, like you have to like putting that in the rules as well, like, okay, you give us all the demos, we're going to parse out all the results, and that's what we will use for the data for the ranking, right? Because that's going to increase the amount of teams that even get ranked in the first place, that the matches that can tell you, like all these adjustments that come into place based on who beat who and all that stuff. Like that's all very valuable data that they're not getting.
Sounds like a pretty good idea. How to handle it, to be honest with you.
Well, that's why I wanted to address it, right? Because I mean, I've been getting a lot of questions behind the scenes about this, and like people are realizing that we are effectively, again, I don't want to use the word responsible, but it is like
motherfucking gatekeepers.
To some degree, we like our choices matter, right? But we cannot be responsible for that. So that's a massive issue. I think that will have to get handled at some point once Valve realizes how much of a issue it is causing, really.
And then on that bombshell, we're going to have to check in with Jason. Jason, I'm sorry that we upset you.
No, I'm good. I just don't know if I'm allowed to talk or if someone's going to have a smart ass comment.
No, Jason, cool. Sorry, man. We weren't trying to upset you, man. Is it? We want you. We want you here, man. People at home want you here. You okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right.
Cool.
All right.
I'll get you a drink later.
If we can recover from this, we can recover from anything.
From anything at all.
I'm just shocked that YNK didn't know this the entire time. I'm like, it's been kind of pretty clear.
Well, when I said it, I thought that I said something I wasn't meant to say, and I was like, oh no, it's over.
I thought that was known, or wasn't that like kind of announced?
Well, remember
they have the little line. They've had that in the first place, that they're getting all the data from us. So.
But remember when they used to have the was it the rank? No, they had the matches in game for a certain point, right? Like they would have when it wasn't
right. Yeah,
it wasn't just major
and stuff and stuff like that. They had
that was
from us. That was from us too.
The only people who get access to HLTV's API is Valve.
That is
nobody else.
That's not actually true. I think that some of the TOs are also getting some stuff.
Well, you guys had like a bunch of people scraping.
I mean, scraping is the different. I'm just saying what we're actually giving out to people.
I don't know the definitions of all these different.
I don't actually know. To be honest, I don't actually know like who's getting what or whatever. I just know that some were like from TO side and stuff for the stats and whatever like that. I think are getting something on the side as well, not just Valve.
Everyone likes. Oh, Lucas is yelling. Hello, Lucas.
Commercial break, Chad.
People can I say that? Can I say that? It doesn't. Yeah, you sure? That's on you.
He said contact sales.
I was just saying, like, it's definitely coming through the mic, man. Like, there's no.
He said you can buy access to the API, just contact sales. But then he says it's expensive.
Oh, to some degree, I guess you can. I don't know. I mean, for some.
So now you're just selling for HLTV.
But that's what he just told me that. I'm repeating what he said.
Right.
Sorry, guys.
We have a guy on our Discord who wanted to set up like a live VRS sort of tracking thing for teams.
Okay.
He was just trying to find data. I don't know. It's a lot of technical speak that I don't know, what it means, but hopefully something.
But I mean, that's why we can do the live version of the ranking, because we have all the data. We have all of the data.
Okay. Well, like I said, we're going to talk more about the tier 2 fallout and whatnot. We'll get into the different angles at a later date. We've got Katowice to talk about.
How long do we spend on this? Like
45 minutes. That's okay. Right. 45 minutes isn't bad. What we're going to do now is...
You ready to contribute?
Yeah, yes. I don't know. Yeah.
Oh, Jason, don't be like this.
Well, I'm ready to go. What do you want to talk about? What have we got?
What's really upset him, YNK.
It's my fault.
What's next on the subject list?
That's all right.
Let's just keep it moving.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to do a sponsor segment right now.
Okay.
This one is...
We don't know how those feel like a talking counter.
No. This is going to be Who Wants to Be a Skinionaire. And this one is brought to everybody by Skin Place.
Last time I did one of these, I did really good.
Now, the two of you will be contributing for these answers. Are you happy to take the task? You can either go one question at a time, or you can work as a brain trust. It's up to the two of you.
We've got a lot.
It will be very embarrassing for the both of us, but we'll give our best.
Okay. So for the people in chat right now, type Skin Place. That'll be your raffle ticket to enter the draw to potentially win a $50 voucher for a skin. Otherwise, it might be less than 50. It depends on how many questions they get right. All right, Skin Place in chat right now. Gentlemen, are you ready to get this thing underway? I will let
the
everyone
subject
know.
matter is Katowice history.
Katowice history over the years.
Okay.
Oh, you know the subject matter?
It's on the screen right there.
Okay.
Okay, I need to.
That LASIK doing work.
All right, here we.
He was just about to poke you one more time, and you're
It
like,
feels like I'm here, like I'm just a Make-A-Wish kid who's here, like has no idea what's going on. Who's like, oh, HLTV is doing this for well.
Here we go.
God dang it.
Who wants to be a Skinionaire? Brought to you by Skin Place. Question number 1. How many Katowices have been majors? 2, 3, or 4?
14, 15,
15, and
19. 3.
Locking in B, 3, and the correct answer is.
Did we have to like sort of drag it out?
No,
or
it's
no?
fine.
Oh, no, it's fine.
It's not like a DHL segment.
We don't need to
Actually,
reach, don't need to reach the break goal.
This is just a quiz, and I am the king of those. So
Yeah,
let's
you're
go.
fine.
Okay, so first correct. Question number 2, coming in thick, fast, and hot. In 2015, Vox Eminor beat one team in the group stage. Who was it? Flipside, Navi, or Fnatic?
One team in the group stage.
in 2015, you said? Okay.
Why isn't Titan an option?
That was Cologne.
That was the first thing I thought about too. I was at Katowice in 2015.
In the group stage, that was
There's
all
no
best
shot.
of ones.
There's no shot they beat Fnatic. Right?
Fnatic
Flipside,
won,
Navi,
beat
Fnatic.
NIP.
Yeah, but this is the group stage.
Yeah.
Flipside was always playing in those elimination games because they were always that
Every
ratty
time.
team that got to the majors and did nothing else all year.
I like
Played
that
late.
logic, but I don't know if it's
Navi was a really slow-paced tactical team, and Chad did not have the brain to beat them at the time.
Actually, harsh but fair.
Later on, he got some.
Flipside or Navi, you think?
Flipside's the easy one, but that's the obvious
I feel like he
one.
would. I feel like he would have bragged more about beating Blade one time.
Who was on Navi in 15? Seized.
Actually,
Flaming at the time, maybe.
Let's just say Flipside, dude.
Locking in A, Flipside.
It's gotta be.
And the
It's
correct
gotta be
answer
Navi.
is
It's gonna be Navi.
Flipside. It was on cash.
That was nice.
We
Yeah.
dumpstered him.
How'd you do?
Oh, we fucking binned him. It was like 16-3. We gave him the fucking beans.
Yeah, you guys were playing in NA at the time, and Cash is an NA map, so you guys had plenty of practice.
That's before we became Renegades.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we were in NA
yeah.
at that time.
Okay.
But anyway, shout out to me one time. Question number 3. Katowice first best of 5 grand final was in 2016. That's a fun fact. Who did Fnatic beat 3-0 in that final? Was it A, Luminosity, B, Astralis, C, NV?
In 2016?
2016.
It's the Luminosity. Lock it
Yankee,
in.
are you happy with the answer that Jason has provided?
Yeah, I'm happy. The better game was the semifinal between Navi and
I don't know, that final was pretty
Luminosity.
sweet.
and Luminosity because Navi was actually saving those boosts on overpass for the major, and they wanted to win that game so
Yeah,
bad
yeah.
they whipped it out.
All right.
But Luminosity lost and then won the major.
I was casting that Luminosity final.
Going to be locking in A, Luminosity. The correct answer is
Hey, Luminosity.
Astralis, of course.
Yeah. There was a huge Luminosity Navi
Luminosity.
streak over there. It was like Leipzig. Before that, they
Yeah,
also
yeah.
played like the final or
Starlighter
some
Minsk.
shit. Yeah, something like that. It was like
Starlighter
5.
was Luminosity versus Fnatic.
That was the event too, where that those boosts you were talking about that happened to the empty arena, because
The
that was the one
overpass
where the
ones.
day went so late.
Oh
They
yeah.
had to empty out the arena. Yeah,
okay, boys. You're doing well. 3 from 3.
nice.
Question number 4.
How many questions are there?
5.
Nice.
Apex has only missed one Katowice in its 12-year history. What roster was he on in 2017? That's when he missed it.
I was hoping, because I knew it was
easy.
2017.
Okay.
What roster was he on in 2017?
NV, Titan, or G2?
Was Titan still around in 2017?
Wait, Pro League finals in London. That was 2017
There you had multiple
Sure,
there,
let's
no?
say yes.
or 16. I think 17.
It was season
That
4.
was the
that
Shocks
would've
Apex G2 lineup.
been- Yeah.
So did that roster change happen after Katowice, or did they get into 2017 with that roster?
I don't know. I can't.
That
keep
was
up
also
with
the
French
Dallas
roster
one.
changes.
But what's with
What are our chances? What are our options?
NV,
here?
Titan, G2.
NV, Titan, or G2? I think Titan was done by then. I think it's NV or
I think
G2.
Henry was done by then. I think, yeah, Titan probably. I think G2 is our best bet.
2017.
Rock and
you
roll
said?
20.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Going to be locking in C, G2, and the correct answer is
Yes.
G2.
Let's go.
Nicely done.
It was an online qualifier,
We're back.
and they lost. They came 4th place in the online
All right.
qualifier.
Beautiful.
Yeah, but that was like they did come together at that beginning of 2017. That new G2, whatever was like when they like put together all the big French
Was that
names.
Canyon
effectively.
Shocks finally playing
Yeah,
together? Yeah,
exactly. Apex, NBK, and Body. I think at the time it was. That was the
That
lineup at the
sounds
beginning.
right. Was that the team that was in Dallas as well?
Yeah, they won
Yeah,
Dallas
yeah,
after
yeah.
that. Yeah, that was also that.
You know,
year,
the
I'm pretty
Frenchies
sure.
were also the only people who did won the major in Cluj and Poca, and then went to the major in Columbus and got last place.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Nice fun fact.
Yeah.
Let's go.
All right,
Just
gentlemen.
being nice because you were a dick earlier, but keep going.
Huh?
Yeah.
The 5th and final question for the $50 skin. Who was the MVP of IEM Katowice 2021 online edition? Was it A, Shiro, B, Axile, C, Hobbit?
Exile.
I think it was Exile.
2021.
Yeah, when we were in the pandemic as online.
Yeah.
They beat Virtus Pro in the final.
Yeah.
That was when Yakinda was on Virtus Pro.
Yeah. It'd be Exile or Shiro, wouldn't it? It has to be Exile.
Yeah, I think it's
It
Exile.
has to be Exile. He was a monster. He's a fucking monster.
Now you
What's
get
the third?
you get
Exile,
one-
Shiro.
Hobbit. You get one phone a friend. You can check in with Striker.
Striker, ring.
I think it's Shiro, but I'm
He
not.
didn't even answer the phone.
He didn't even. He didn't even commit to the game.
Sorry, man.
Hey, Striker here. Hey, Striker.
Hey, what's up?
I think it's Shiro, but I'm not 100%, but I'm fairly confident.
This
it's
is
Shiro.
a trap
I'm fairly
question for
confident
me,
it's Shiro.
man.
Yeah, I know. You're two.
I don't want to say
I just
Shiro
remember
ever.
Shiro has I just feel like I remember Shiro has an MVP from Katowice, and it's got to be that one, right?
Lock in Shiro.
Oh, Jason, trusting the friend.
Yanko didn't want to say it,
That's
so I'm
fair
trusting
enough.
the friend.
Locking in A, Shiro, and the correct answer is Shiro. 5 from 5. The confetti comes streaming down. A bouquet of flowers. The people can't believe it. Everyone's
Firm
on
handshakes
their
all
feet.
around.
They're shouting, and money is everywhere. Lucas is going to draw a winner. I won't be able to see who the winner is. He's going to probably put it in that bar. But that was a quick quiz about IEM Katowice history from 2014.
That was a nice one. Did you put that one together?
Yeah.
Okay.
Of
So
course,
you're
you
just-
can see
you're
because the questions were difficult.
So you're just an asshole to us when we're doing it then.
No, sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I want them to be hard. Sometimes I want them to be easy. Yeah, you know, it's sometimes.
Wait, these were easy?
They were easy compared to what I gave them 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
If I can bend them over a barrel 2 weeks ago, there was no way they were getting it right there. How would you say that, Yanko?
I can't see the letter after K. Can you tell me what's after K?
2 eyes.
Lipukituri.
Betty's from Finland.
Ripukituri.
Congratulations.
That sounds pretty fucking good. I have to say.
To the Finnish gentleman who we think is Finnish and a gentleman. Our people reach out to your gentleman or your people. Not. Anyway, that sounded weird. That's Who Wants to Be a Skinionaire brought to you by
I did
Skin
get an
Place.
extra white chocolate mocha if anyone wants a coffee at
You say that
7
now?
p.m.
Would you have drunk it?
Maybe a little bit.
Do you want it now?
No, now I'm pumped up.
Well, I'd drink it so it doesn't go to waste.
Okay.
I think about the poor children in Australia.
Moses.
No gags about who drinks coffee at 8 p.m. when
Yeah.
he's doing it.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm just thinking in my head. I'm not saying it out loud, but it is
Hypocrite.
happening.
You can say it.
Bloody hypocrite.
Why am I?
Okay.
I didn't say it. What's happening?
I think he meant him, no?
You're talking about me.
No.
You're trying to bully me.
Oh, I thought you were
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about
yeah,
it.
There we go.
Just
We're back.
You're
Back in the room.
You're just getting so much badgering
I know.
today that you're just like, what the fuck did I do
Thanks,
this
so
time?
confused by it.
Straight left and right.
Okay, guys. So, as I was talking about, maybe this was in the talking counter portion of the show that the HLTV Confirmed people didn't see. Not sure. But you know how I said that I have a segment that I stole?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
All
I'm
right,
gonna
let's do it.
So the thing is, the segment, you guys are just gonna kind of guess the stories based off of these headlines. But I stole this from Hamish and Andy. They're radio presenters turned podcasters in Australia. They're quite a famous comedian duo. And essentially the segment they would run, it was called like Salacious Headlines. And what would happen is they had like a third guy. He was the guy that pressed the buttons, who would be our Rushley, or for example, Lucas in this situation.
Yep.
And that guy, they would come in and say like 3 good stories that happened, just 3 stories of what happened to them in the week. Like I went to the gym, or, I went to a winery, with my wife and some friends, just anything. And then the comedy duo had to turn them into salacious headlines to make it sound more nefarious than it was.
All right.
So I've just grabbed some of the things that have happened over the course of Katowice and I've turned them into headlines. Now, this might be a terrible segment,
Could be great though.
but let's see how it goes.
I
to
like
find
the
out.
idea so far.
Okay.
So you're the one who's turned them into salacious headlines.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we need
then-
to guess the story.
or we could just talk about the topic,
All right,
because it
let's
might
talk
be
about
it
it.
might
All
be
right.
pretty obvious. For example, journalists denied, players push back. Striker, you didn't get many interviews. What happened?
That one day, man. I don't think I've ever had that kind of a day in Katowice, especially like in one of these tournaments where it's like huge and everybody kind of cares about it. Literally 5 teams declined. All of the ones that I asked for declined, every single one. 3 of them who won that day,
They didn't want to do
they
it.
won and still didn't want to do it. So yeah, I didn't want to put like anybody specific in
Name
on
them.
blast.
Give us
but-
6 teams and we'll guess which 5.
But to be honest, like looking at the teams that looking at the teams that won, you can probably guess a lot of them, because that day I just literally got nothing, and I asked for 5 interviews.
Did
that
they
day.
give you like a reasoning?
No.
Is it like
Classic thing.
we go through PR people, so we don't really get like hear back reasoning.
This
most
is
of the
also
time.
like, I'm gonna steal the conversation for a
Thank
little
you.
bit, but this is
Thank
also
you for making the
this is
argument
also
for me.
one
I
of the
don't have to do
fucking
it.
problems. Like, there's so many of these teams where there's people there that they think the way they justify being employed by the team is like protecting the players from giving like a 3-minute interview, or making it so hard to reach them because they need to be protected to focus on playing. It's like, how are we ever going to enlarge the pie if we don't have the access to the players, if we don't let them speak their mind and like be there and just give an interview, for Christ's sakes? It's like, you know, you don't need to huddle them 24 hours. You don't need to straight after the game to have a team talk, into a, you know, shuttle ride together into the prac room to talk, then to have a team dinner, then to have a team walk around, then to have bedtime stories all together with your performance coach. Like, you all need to just relax, guys. You know, just give an interview here, let the players come onto a couch, let them do a piece of content here, let them do a skit there, let them show their personality a little bit, and who knows, maybe you might have some more fans. Rant over.
That sounds pretty reasonable to me. I'm just glad somebody else said it.
anyone else want to add anything to that?
No, I think he's basically said it all.
He said it all.
I mean,
Okay.
it sucks, man. So that was,
I think that's
had to have been a tough
look,
day for you.
Look,
Still
again,
don't
like,
let Kassad stand behind you.
Well, that was my
Keep that
next
one going.
salacious
Yeah.
headline.
Yeah.
Oh,
Analyst steals trade secrets,
Sure.
which, hey,
wait, but we're not pimp.
hey,
Neither of us
Got
is,
you with that one. Kassad did get all the attention with that tweet.
because we got informed that there was a complaint about it, which like I never go out there because I just, and you wouldn't either.
No.
We never even go out to the studio area.
I haven't seen you guys.
So like, I know it's not about me. So it kind of, whittles it down to a few candidates.
I mean, it reminded.
There were a few like in a couple of those games where we're just like watching, but like you're watching the game, man. So I don't understand like what's
the
what's
problem
happening.
is, it's just like when it's about to be the end of the game, it goes straight from the casters to the desk, right? But we can't watch the game from the couches because
the players,
It's off.
the players
because
could
you
see
can't,
it as well. So there's nowhere to what. Actually, there is a place to watch the game where I watch it. It's just a little bit backstage. There's some tech guys who have program screens there, but it's interesting to stand behind the team if it's an English-speaking team, sort of see their comms and all of that stuff. So that's why they're there at that time. It's not that they're trying to do I don't know what, it's just to sort of keep track of the very end of the game. But I do understand the teams. I would do the same thing if I was still on a team. Right, because some of the players told me, it's like, bro, I can see a guy in like my peripheral vision, just sort of like looking over my shoulder, like watching me play. It's just a distraction. It's just a little bit annoying in a way, right? You get used to, you already have 10 cameras in your face, people in your phone filming while you're playing, for the winner reaction, for the loser reaction. Like any extra distractions, you want to minimize them sort of if you're on a team. So I would complain probably as well if I saw big ass Kassad or Pimp recording all my trade
I was going
secrets.
to say, also, like when you have a member of talent who's just signed as an ambassador of one of your competing teams, it makes complete sense as well. Like if talent are going to start having associations with teams, it's like,
issue.
yeah, bro, you give up your ability to stand behind a team and record a cool piece of content for Twitter or Instagram, whatever you're posting.
In general, like it's obviously, look, we're not in an industry where we just care about all kinds of conflicts, right? So it's kind of like some of it you just brush off, but obviously, Kassad wants to be a coach. I mean, is it really okay?
He's the one who's probably more egregious.
Is it really okay for you to be like standing behind teams 24/7, just listening to their comms and knowing how they operate when you're very likely to play against them if you're going to go back into the competition? So I understand about that part of it, man.
It makes complete sense.
Teams are sometimes pretty stupid because they just leave their notes like between maps on their tables and
we find a lot of
like,
team notes in printers.
Dude, in Pro League, the amount of them that would like print notes or like leave the folder open, like with the I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to close this and I'm going to pick up their notes and I'm going to fold it in half and I'm going to take it to them.
Yeah.
Like a 12-page playbook just sitting on the table.
Our fucking photographers, like, just because they're obviously taking pictures all the time and those are going to be in the frame. 90% of the pictures that you're going to take, bro, they're spending time in Photoshop just like taking things out so that people can just like scroll in and look at their shit. But it's like that's kind of a problem if you're just leaving that to the people who are like who aren't even kind of responsible for doing that.
If it's an
they're just doing it
organization
out
a
of their
little
own-
bit less reputable than HLTV, that shit's everywhere.
I wanna.
I don't know, man, but really, like relying on us not to share your shit, like it's kind of
it's a little bit crazy.
We're leaning a little bit too much on HLTV. I'll be honest with you.
I agree with the sentiment. If members of the broadcast are going to be having ties to teams, whether or not I think that like Pim's the example at the moment, he'd be doing anything nefarious. I don't think Jacob would be.
I don't think.
But the fact that it exists,
I don't know.
the fact that it exists, that's the qualm, right? That it's even a conversation. That's the same thing when we're always talking about conflict of interest. It's not about is it actually happening. It's about could it.
The potential for
exactly.
it.
Yeah.
And then the one about like the Kassad one, that's another angle. But I want to offer an alternative to this for the players. And if we had signed agreements or something along those lines, which I think, for talent working in an event to say if like, hey, Yanko's going to stand out behind, you're not in the peripheral vision, you're standing behind and you stand out there for a couple of rounds and you're watching the game from that perspective. That's my favorite way to watch a game of Counter-Strike.
It is great, yeah.
But so my point is that if Yanko's standing behind and watching the game from, I don't know, let's just say Vitality's perspective, and he's watching how like a round unfolds, and on the cast, the way that like me or Jason would have portrayed it is like there should have been this information, but maybe they didn't comm something, or maybe they comm something bad, and then Yanko catches that, right? And then Yanko goes into his death segment. He's like, nah, look, like they made the wrong comm. Like that guy, he made the wrong play, but Apex said 3B and there wasn't 3B, right? Like that angle of it, I think helps because it really informs the conversation, but there would need to be an agreement that this type of information isn't going to be like just used willy-nilly or for the advantage of Yanko.
But that's what I was going to get into. Like we are in an awkward situation, even like for myself, right? Like I'm there just kind of taking videos of the guys, like sometimes during matches, right? Where do I draw the line between where I mute the video and when I don't? Like is it just at the end of matches, when they're about to celebrate, or like when, like we don't really have any sort of guidelines for this, right? And we're just kind of using our own kind of our own logic, our own reasons for how we do it. We try to be respectful about it, but we're going to catch things that the teams probably don't want to be out there, but it just happens literally, and like everybody's around them, so plenty of people will have heard it. You can't rely on everybody never to say anything or post something, or we see comms just being blurted out on broadcast that I'm sure sometimes maybe the teams aren't super happy about.
Example where he was trashing on JKS, and
he wasn't super happy about
he was
that
like,
one.
that was just like locker talk, so that gets aired.
And we had
That's been a popular excuse over the past few years, I feel.
Locker talk, locker room talk.
I mean, but like, of course, for our audience and for anybody who wants to know a little bit more, it's great to get some of these little tidbits. But where the line is, I mean, that's not easy to draw.
All right, you ready for my next headline?
Absolutely. I like this game. It's a decent game, Chad. It's
Lovable goof loses loose tooth.
That's a good one.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
not that
JL.
It's
JL
not
losing
that-
his tooth, yeah.
It's not that salacious. I mean,
But yeah, it's true. It's not, but it's still
Why hit you with
it's
that?
still a TMZ headline, right?
Fair
You
enough.
still see it in TMZ.
Yeah.
And then he played with a mask, and the whole game I was like, that's really respectful of JL. If he's not feeling well and he's wearing a mask, so he doesn't get his teammates sick, I really respect that. And then he was still high-fiving, and I was like, but maybe he shouldn't be high-fiving.
Maybe keep
And it's
your
like,
hands to yourself.
we were making the same argument when we were just like in the press room. We're like, why are you still high-fiving them, man?
I want to see him without the tooth.
wonder which tooth it was.
Hopefully a front tooth, because that's the
It's a
funniest-
front.
That's the front. That's
It's
the
a 1 or a
funniest
2
to imagine.
per my sources.
Yeah.
For your sources.
Per sources.
What did you say?
It's a 1 or a 2,
Oh,
like,
okay,
I don't know
like
if-
one of the front ones.
Yeah,
Big
yeah,
ones, yeah, the important ones.
Okay, next headline. That one didn't get a lot of conversation, but that's an event first.
I mean, what are we supposed to talk about? Like,
I don't
obviously
know.
it's-
What we could do right now is we could go find the house cleaner who threw away the tooth and interview them.
How do you feel about throwing away this man's tooth? Yeah.
Did you keep the tooth?
Did you realize he had to play an entire game of Counter-Strike with a mask on?
Did you sell the tooth
What was the
Yeah.
weirdest thing you found?
in a hotel room?
Yeah.
Now that's a question. For Hasbro. Okay, next one. Cheap guns found in Poland.
Okay.
The update. Yeah.
Well done. That
Not
was
bad.
nice. Yeah.
What a great game I made.
Yeah.
Or
Was
stole from
that it?
Shenandy. No, there's more.
You got more? Okay, yeah.
Have we noticed an uptick in FAMUS or a downtick in MP9?
Yeah.
Do
for
the
sure.
stats back it up? Have you
I
checked?
actually haven't checked that to that degree, but definitely saw some teams prefer the FAMUS.
Here's the question: Is it going to swing the game in the favor of CTs a little bit more now that they can afford a cheaper and more effective rifle?
Don't think so. I think that we're going to see even bigger buff now that Donk gave an interview and said that it's more powerful and that he's going to use it a little bit more.
It's very funny
so.
because we nearly put that in the headline. Then we were like, how many matchmaking games are we going to see with like people just running around with the FUMAs just because Donk said it's good?
Again, maybe leaning a little bit too much on HLTV. It maybe accrued a little bit too much power at this point.
I'll be real though, the almost feels great in games of Counter-Strike.
You
right
just
now.
played some before. Did you use it much?
I did use it
Yeah?
quite a bit. Yeah, it's fun. It's good. It can give you like a nice, precise like feeling of like a 3-bullet burst. You can spray with it. It runs out of bullets quickly, obviously, but it's nice. It's a nice weapon.
Not if you're accurate.
I will say
If you're
one thing.
accurate.
I will say one thing. It still doesn't.
true.
It still doesn't show up in the
stats wheel.
starts wheel, which
I haven't touched burst fire yet though.
There we go.
Okay. Well, that means it's not 1% of usage, right?
I don't remember if it's 1 or 2, but something like that. Yeah.
And
But
it
it's
was
also-
also the update was only
Yeah.
used for stage 2. It
True.
wasn't
But the
used.
stats would be kept separate from stage 1 to stage 2 because the way they have their database. They still have stage 1 listed as play-ins.
Just teams just play really well on CT. They didn't need to play with the FAMAS.
True. And then the cheaper M4, obviously.
The MP7's making a comeback after the MP9 nerf. Have you noticed that?
Has it really? I thought that also.
I saw Spirit and Liquid both using it.
Well, Nerds, of course,
Nerds loves
use
it.
Yeah, but it was not Nerds. It was other Liquid players.
Maybe somebody
for whatever
picked
that
it up.
matters.
Maybe
Anything, but
somebody picked it
the
up.
big
after
one in
Nerds.
that statement was the Spirit players using the MP7.
Yeah.
That's the real attention grab.
Well, I still saw the MP9 doing a shitload of damage. For example,
Yeah.
like Flames got an ace against VP with the MP9. He picked up an AK for the last 2 kills, but he still got like a really big 3K with it.
But you can see like people are struggling long range with it more.
Yes.
Definitely.
But that,
So-
I guess, is the intention, isn't
Yeah,
it? Like it
yeah,
shouldn't
you
be. It shouldn't be a weapon that you can use
You could
short
burst
to
with it.
mid range and long range
Yeah.
and get like these fucking.
I
Like,
mean, you
little
can
3 or 4
see the
bullet
logic
bursts.
behind it. I mean, I had like when I saw the update, I was just like 1 a.m. take. I just didn't even think about this angle. And I was like in the morning, yeah, that was actually dumb. So I mean, you can see exactly what Valve are trying to do, right? They just want to kind of incentivize more options, right?
It's only
to-
crouching accuracy, though, isn't it? It's not like standing accuracy.
Yeah,
again.
but I mean, what you're going to run around the long range, doing long range
No, but
fights,
you could
fights
just
with a
stand.
MP9?
and it would still be the same accuracy as it was before.
Yeah, but I don't think that's
Advisable?
particularly good long range.
Well, no, fair enough. Okay. Next headline. Let me look here. Shocking, unprofessional crash out in the caster booth.
Oh, that's Chad leaving around middle of the round. Yeah, I like that.
Middle of the game.
Yeah.
Physically
I've
left the room.
I've never seen you so pissed off in a cast.
It was pretty good though, wasn't it? Everyone was entertained. Some people really didn't like it. There was one guy in the Reddit thread who was saying that I'm like a self-professed terrible person.
Whoa. Self-professed.
There was one guy in a Reddit thread, of course.
Well, there was more than one guy.
How could you ever
But
miss that?
This was the one guy in the Reddit thread. And he's like, yeah, he calls himself a terrible person on Talking Counter. It's like,
Probably Nicholas Ellis.
it probably is. Like, yeah, I do call myself a terrible person. So
You're
you
back
know
in the
that.
Discord.
No, I'm not. Am I still in there?
No,
you stick around?
No,
I
he
came
left
in-
immediately.
I came in to be like, sup, and then I left.
Okay.
Yeah, and I left.
Maybe one day. Maybe once we get some sponsors.
We put a headline on Ultimate for that match but not exactly just because of that one situation. Of course, we clipped it there, but it was like entire series just disappears. And of course, I mean, we had some people in the comments also like, this is disrespectful.
Yeah,
like he played like shit. How is it disrespectful?
Oh yeah, the headline you guys had was like ultimate poor performance.
Ultimate struggles cost Liquid match or whatever, something like that.
Yeah,
I don't remember exactly, but I mean that is 100% the analysis of the match. I mean, what's so disrespectful about it? I mean, he kind of disappeared for a whole series.
Oh, great. Talking about headlines, Striker, do you have any comment on some of the headlines during Blast Bounty that G2 felt scolded by?
Oh,
I don't remember what you mean by that at the moment.
Ooh,
I think they were just like contributing because like when they beat Bait, it was something. The headline was something like G2 limps through, whatever, something like bad performance, barely makes it, and they still made the semis, right? And then when some other teams struggled, the headline wasn't as aggressive.
You still defending G2
I mean, I
now
guess
that
it just
Nico's not
depends on
there.
How do you sleep at night?
I mean,
what the fuck
I would
do you
have to-
do?
I didn't know he was gonna get full serious about it. I thought he's just gonna have a funny answer to it, or something. Now I feel like, okay, I don't have enough evidence about this. I don't remember what was said exactly. I think it was their performance coach maybe tweeting something, or someone mentioned it. I'm starting to sweat profusely now, getting red in the face. I'm regretting the fact that Jason didn't get some drinks instead of coffee. It's all coming together.
There's room service.
Next headline, Chad.
Okay, next headline. Frenchman finally finds pleasure in Poland.
That's a good one. That is a good one.
That'd be the Apex happy ending to the group stage.
Yeah.
it's
I was
really
like,
good.
There's like two levels to this because there's also the whole Zaiwu and Katowice as well, like, which would be, I mean, that kind of goes hand in hand because they never they never did well. And
Jason has all the massage puns.
Well, the two of you are on the cuck chair, so.
Wait, what?
what happened?
Again,
This is
love
well-
seat.
Loves well either way. Yeah, obviously it's about Apex Vitality Zaiwu having their best results so far in a Katowice. So that's good news. We're going to get more into these deeper conversations when we're
I hate that that's like such a
I kind of
line.
enjoy that we're just stopping at the hand job heavy ending cuck chair thing.
We're gonna get
I hate
into
that
more
that's a
of it.
line, but I mean, so what? They made top 6 at some point, right? Not that
Yeah,
long.
a couple of years.
I hate that the fact that like, okay, you made it through the group stage, but like once you made it to the quarterfinals the second time, if you lose the first game, was it really that much better? I mean,
Yeah.
Well, the history books will like Apex.
of course it is.
Looking at the numbers,
and I understand technicality, and all that stuff. Best result, but they're like making it as such a big thing when it's like, okay, one group stage result difference.
Bring back quarterfinals.
I mean, that's if you look back at Vitality the last 5 years, there's one Cologne from this year. There's the Paris major. All right. That's it. There's no
Yeah,
other
like the
Katowice
big ones,
Colognes.
yeah,
Like,
sure.
there's tournament twins
They
here
won
and
some
there.
blast, didn't they?
Yeah, there was a pro league in there. There was some other stuff in there, but the biggest ones, one of them has an asterisk on it, and the other one legit.
No, it's very legit. Yeah.
Okay, we got a couple more of these. 17-year-old massacres 5 Danes on first day at job.
Oh,
Yeah, but I didn't expect that from PR, bro.
yeah.
Yeah, that was
He owned him.
sick,
Isn't
man.
he from your?
He is
yeah?
from my part of the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually don't really know the guy because he kind of left the Czech scene very quickly. I mean, he was only in like some of the better teams for like a year, and then he went straight to Moses NXT. So he's like been kind of ingrained into the international scene very early on. But yeah, I mean that's like very cool.
Good show.
Astralis yet to beat the European squad this year.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, they're in struggle
They
streak.
beat wildcard ones and
FlyQuest.
Brazilian teams.
Okay.
They beat FlyQuest.
And FlyQuest.
Yeah, that doesn't count either. They do have a European Open now, though. Got a few more of these. Forced deportation, conspiracy, or catastrophe?
Flamus?
I like the phrasing of it. It's very funny. It's also hilarious how it never crossed their mind that they could make the playoffs. so they were like, all right, once we're back home after we drop out, you'll take care of it for the future tournaments.
But if people aren't aware, Flamus will not be playing in the playoffs. Mir's going to come and stand in for him. The visa that he got was while he was on Game Allegiance.
It's like this is like, you know what's funny? Like this would be like the reverse situation because remember the last time Mir was involved in this? It was it Mir actually? When Cloud9 didn't have Exile? No, it wasn't Mir. It wasn't Dinters or something. Who was playing for Cloud9 in that Cologne group stage? Was it Mir? I feel like it was Mir.
I think it was Mir.
So it is literally the opposite situation of that Cologne where like Exile comes in for the playoffs and they just lose the first game.
Oh yeah. Now I know
they-
what you mean.
Imagine Mir comes in now for the playoffs game
Yeah.
and just like beasts on Spirit that they just make it to semis like off of that. It would be just such a funny reversal.
People are saying Buster.
Oh yes,
Buster?
yeah. Buster was playing not Mir. Right. Okay.
The booster.
Booster.
Yeah.
Booster.
My entire point's gone.
I've got 2 more.
All right.
Scandalous. French look for older, more experienced man to meet their needs.
Oh,
what's
Rob's
this one about?
body.
That's all
Body.
Joko dropping out body coming in.
Yeah.
That's
All
the
right.
rumor.
Yeah, looking out for that old man body.
Now, there's only a year difference between Jocko and Body.
Yeah. Again, the headline sounds way better.
A lot
this
can
way.
happen in a year.
That's true. And he is a lot more experienced. So that's an interesting one because I think 3D Max have been on the rise. It is
I've
surprising
really
to me.
enjoyed
Yeah,
watching him.
it is kind
And
of
Joko's had some very good games for them too.
He's mechanically very sound.
Yeah,
That one
Not
there's
in 1v1s.
risky move.
I could see Yanko's building up to that. He wanted to make sure we all knew Yanko did beat him in 1v1 at ESL Pro League.
Why didn't you say it, Yanko?
Nah,
He doesn't like to give himself.
1v1s are not a measurement of how good a player is,
Henry
Don't-
beat Freshie.
Just remember to say
No,
that to
Trace beat
Cadian.
Freshie.
Well, Trace ruined Freshie's life. Why did he do that
I
to the
don't know.
poor
Why
guy?
did Freshie say yes?
So, for
No,
people
no,
who may have missed this, during EPO a couple of seasons ago, we did this like tournament, and then Trace had a pro come to be his like champion, and his champion was Freshie. And then Henry just glocked against Freshie, and then Freshie was like, "Well, I can't lose to Glock," so started using the pistol as well, and got absolutely wrecked.
Smashed, yeah.
He got destroyed by Henry G. Ria. Yeah, okay, great. That's the last
He got
one I have.
smashed by Henry G's rear.
Yeah, that's what we call him.
Yeah.
There we go.
Danes and Brazilians get sloppy on a Monday night.
Ooh, that's the old Astralis Furia shit fest.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a gross ending to that nuke. I watched it back with Harry later that night because he was complaining so much, and it was just a terrible ending. It was ugly to watch.
I didn't see much of the game. I just know that Harry and Hugo were saying that it was a bit of a mare.
Was that
of a
the
match.
horrible cello game, or was that the other?
It was
one?
Furia won that series, or no, sorry, Astralis won that series, and their top-rated player in the whole series had a 1.0 rating. They had no one above a 1.0 rating, and they won the series. And you watched the end of that nuke, and it was like the last 5 rounds are like 3 saves from Furia, 3v3 not going for it, 2v1 like 2v2 not going for it, 3v2 not going for it, and you're just like, what's happening? Are we gonna try and win this game,
gentlemen?
Yeah.
Yes.
What I want to do now is we need to run an ad break. So what we're going to do is the salacious headlines are over. We're going to run an ad break. When we come back, it's going to be more talking counter conversation about anything and everything.
I'll buckle your pants up.
The world is changing quickly. Shut up.
The world is changing, but one thing remains the same. Victories with 1xbet.
Sell in-game items at the best prices in just a couple of clicks. We are the biggest instant sell service for in-game items like Counter-Strike 2, Dota 2, and Rust. Easy selling process and instant withdrawal of funds to the most popular payment methods. More than 140,000 deals and 50,000 active sellers every month. Use promo code HLTV5 and get a 5% bonus on the sale of your skins. Skin Place. Sell items now.
It was more than a game. It was everything. Every single emotion on display. Not a moment missed. This was CS:GO through the lens.
Lucas Niemian, I don't know. Faust, at Faust CS2. Let the man have a hobby. Won't really change anything no matter what he hears.
Oh my god! All right, well, welcome back from the break, everybody. We're going to get the show back underway now, gentlemen. Yeah, you guys all know what I was just saying because we were just saying it.
Yeah.
So I did salacious headlines. Any big takeaways? Hugo's back from dinner.
I saw him go
That's
to
a
the
huge takeaway.
That's
He,
massive. He's ready for Counter-Strike.
He told me good luck with the podcast as he was just.
You're sitting on his chair,
There we go.
and
Thank
you guys
you.
are using
Thanks,
his
Mr.
table.
Hugo.
Yep, he's my next door neighbor. But any massive takeaways from Katowice so far that you want to get stuck into?
People love to hate Virtus Pro.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
And I'm not as staunch of a defender of Virtus Pro's Counter-Strike as I was around Rio, and especially during the Rio Major. But I hate people pushing narratives or like getting away with it, because when we were doing their first game or something there and people are saying, I mean, this team is just terrible. What are they doing? This is awful. How they looked. What were they doing on this map? What was the plan? I'm like, if this was any other organization or team, I don't know which of the two is the bigger problem. They've added 2 new players, young players, not super experienced, not super, not complete rookies, but and they've changed their IGL. Any other team makes that big of a for teams that have made smaller changes, we're willing to give them time and say it's fine. Yeah. FaZe didn't make the playoffs. We're like, yeah, that's all right. I mean, they brought in a leash, had to move like multiple people around. That's fine. But for Virtus Pro, it's unacceptable if they look sloppy at times and it's not great. I mean, which team has looked crisp, clean in this tournament?
Yeah.
None. So
Most teams don't look crisp and clean across the whole
I
tournament.
just hate that. It's like, why would I get it. Like, people really dislike their play style for a while.
They don't play that anymore.
Even though they changed that, even with that roster, but never mind. So it was just like,
I don't think it's about that this time, though. I don't think it's about their old playstyle, because, I mean, that you can see on a first look that they're just not the same team from that. I think it's just Electronics' legacy and him going back and forth between in-game leading and non-in-game leading, and how it went in the past, that people are kind of projecting you on towards this team, even though just give it some time. Let's look at how this team plays.
Can we get them a month?
Yes,
Well,
exactly.
I think part of it, unfortunately, is they fell into that category after such a shit year last year, into that internet meme category where everyone just has fun making a meme about the Virtus Pro performance or the electronic performance or how he's moved in-game leader of his past 2 teams and they've all gone to shit. Once you enter that meme territory, it just becomes the fun thing for most people to say. I think they've looked. I think they got dumpstered their first game here, if I recall.
They lost to Pain in their opening game.
They got dumpstered, but then they've looked good
then they,
otherwise. Whenever I've
3 times
casted them,
2-0s or some shit, they look.
Yeah, but then
convincing
they
after
played
that.
Saw and MIBR.
That's not bad teams though.
Yeah. They're not good teams.
Saw, don't try and tell.
I mean, Saw. Yeah,
Saw are one of the worst 4 teams of the tournament, alongside of complexity.
You know what? I kind of
FlyQuest,
find it
Imperial
funny because I spoke to Flamos after that Saw series, and he was like, "Yeah, yesterday we were after the Pain loss, we were like, yeah, we were just in our heads, constantly thinking are we doing something wrong?" And
Their first LAN game.
We went into the Saw game, and you saw how much better we were playing, and so we were all right in the first place, and I'm like, well, you have to kind of consider who you're playing, and so it was just kind of funny, but then they kept going, so I think fair enough.
I enjoyed watching VP for the most part of this event. The most frustrating thing about it is it's crazy, having spent the whole last year and just being now that Electronic just fully has control of the team, it's you immediately see an improvement. Yeah, they got a few new players as well, so that adds into it as well. But just being oh, you guys aren't fucking completely lost in terms of who you're supposed to be listening
but
to.
it kind of what you were talking about with Furia when Art and Gary were still there. Even though Fallen to come into lead, let's say that because we know, and maybe you had similar experience to Striker trying to get interviews, but we were never allowed to talk to Jame or Electronic. Yeah. And then there were even tournaments where casters were told they're not even meant to talk about who is leading VP when those guys.
It was don't talk about the in-game leader situation of Virtus Pro.
It's literally our job.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
I was no, I will be mentioning that at some point.
Yeah. I mean, even this time when I asked Electronic about it, he did say yes after they won. Usually it's like that. He will say yes after they win.
Yeah.
Funny then.
It is funny. I mean, that's a lot of teams. I mean, I'm not going to even put.
So he wasn't one of those 5 teams. Huh? It was somewhere else. It wasn't
no, that was
Pro.
the day before. That was the day before. So it doesn't. But yeah, they wouldn't have. It wasn't them. They gave me 2 different interviews in that group stage. I mean, I didn't even ask for them after that because.
Dude, when I saw Fame giving an interview earlier this event, I was like, damn.
Yeah, I mean,
Fame's good.
Right.
Fame is good.
Fame's English pretty good as well.
But yeah, when I was talking to Electronic, it was very clear that he kind of wants to put this conversation behind him, and he just doesn't want to talk about it anymore.
Which is fair.
I get it because you can see how much people are putting importance on that and how much they are kind of running away with it, right? And so I understand it. Of course, I mean, from my perspective, I have to ask about it. I mean, I am interested in why, because literally the guy told me the year and a half before that when he stopped being an IGL, when Boomich came in, that he doesn't have the temperament for it. And so I'm like, so what made you come back? So I have to kind of call him out on it, right? But I understand from his perspective, he just is fuck it. Why do I have to deal with this?
Well, the best way to get past that is just to do the fucking tell all. Just do one interview, where you just unleash and then be all right, I'm done.
But he needs to do it in Russian. So he can express himself properly.
Probably. Yeah.
Get
he did
Dimitri
that,
on the
but he did that with me. I mean, he answered in Russian to me, actually. I can understand parts.
How do you ask follow-ups to that?
I can understand parts. Like, for example, he was talking about, going back to a supportive role because of Flam was the addition and he gave up some positions for him. And I can catch enough that I'll understand what he's talking about.
Context clues and that,
At least that, so I can ask certain follow-ups. Sometimes I'll just be completely lost, when he's answering something, because I don't have that good of a knowledge of Russian, but enough, to at least catch what he's talking about, so I can ask some follow-ups. But yeah, I mean, he even asked if he can do it in Russian just so that it's simpler for him, and that's, we always are up to do that with players because they will just be more open, right? They'll be more comfortable answering in their own language.
But I guess you started this talking about. I think it's probably Electronic was starting to become a bit of a scapegoat for the team in the sense of he was a team destroyer. That was the new angle.
Yeah, I get it, and I said it on day one when I talked about them. I feel like this is Electronic's last chance on a tier 1 team.
Which I think is fair.
This is where he has to sort of.
He's only 26, which is crazy.
No, but I mean because of what you said, because of how it went in the previous couple of teams, and then his stock as an individual player has fallen as well. We're talking about fucking Electronic, guys. Yeah. Well, this dude was like him, Nico, ropz. And
simple, yeah.
Right? I mean, in terms of just riflers, right? And Simple, the best player in the world, he was number 4 or 5 1 year as the second best player on that team. I mean, that was crazy. It was the perfect Robin to the Batman of Simple, and now the guy isn't even in the conversation. It's one of the biggest fall-offs we've had in a tier 1 player. So okay, now if you're going to in-game lead, that part is understandable, but then you need to deliver in that role. And everything that we heard from the other players in interviews is the things are fine. Like everyone's enjoying it. Like they're just going through the motions, figuring things out with the new team and getting adjusted to the way he calls and the way they want to play the game.
Vibe in that team is taking a 180. They look fucking happy.
Oh yeah, I mean even when you're looking at how they're reacting to wins, losses, whatever, like it's just way different of a team. Like before, they were the most neutered team ever in terms of reactions or emotions or whatever.
I think Icy's really good too.
I think he's good as well. I had what happened?
Is your PTSD from the Amcal days like fucking?
What? I can't say Icy's good.
Well, he's okay.
He's good.
I think
I
he's
mean,
good.
he has a good ceiling. He has really high ceiling.
His game's got to get fleshed out still, but I think he's
Yeah.
good for where he's
I
at.
don't know. The game I did it. Well, actually, they did get dumpstered by Vitality. So maybe that's not.
I was going
fair.
to say though, like I have
That game I casted him against Zywoo, he looked like shit.
They got they had 2 10-2 halves against them. So yeah, no, fair actually. Okay.
I think he looks solid. I think he's got a lot of work to do, a lot of places to go, but I think he's a pretty cool opera to watch play.
I had some kind of reservations to what Flamus was saying, and kind of almost had a feeling like he was getting neutered in this team, because it was just like first thing that comes out of his mouth is like, yeah, when I came into this team, I just immediately realized everything I was doing in Gamer Legion was wrong.
Yeah, that was
I'm like, bro, what? And then there was like a situation where Electronic gave up some positions for him, and then next thing you know, he's getting put into pit in Dust 2, and you're like, bro,
that changed from Bounty.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying.
rotator.
And then he's like, yeah, but I just didn't feel like I was doing, or like I wasn't doing the right moves in these positions, and so I'm just gonna be more comfortable in positions where I'm just sitting and killing people. I'm like, yeah, but like you're the most aggressive player we've seen in a while. Like you are.
Ivy on train on the CT side as well.
Yeah. So like some of these T positions, I mean, you can tell that he is still being.
It also doesn't have to be their final form.
Yeah.
He can learn for a season and see what Electronic is doing, and maybe that's the long-term plan to sort of get a feel for what the team wants him to do and how to do it, because there's a big difference between having rotator roles in the tier 2 and in tier 1, and how people, half of the game for teams is just abusing rotations and moving that one guy, right? So it's something that takes time to get good at.
Yeah, I mean, if it ends up working, like I'm all for it. It's just more like you get one of the most aggressive guys we've seen in the scene, and you just put him pit Inferno, Ivy, and Train and stuff, or pit Inferno too. Actually,
speaking of aggressive guys, how'd y'all like Nerds with Liquid this event?
He was the shining light.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else was just as average as usual.
Yeah. Twist had some better games, I think.
Yeah,
he had a couple like 1-2 punches with ropz like that.
Yeah, I have I think
Nerds.
Yeah.
I think that Mongolz series they definitely could have won.
I mean, they probably should have won, to be honest.
Yeah, the type of rounds that they were losing were pretty rough. I feel like the Nuke scoreline was only close because of a couple of crazy rounds that went in the favor of Mongolz, like the 2v4 defuse on the lower side that never should have happened, like Liquid, and then there was like they lost 1 or 2 light by rounds, so then the scoreline reads close. Mirage, this is the reason I got a like with the ultimate reaction. He had a really bad first map, right? And then in the second map, it's the pistol round, and he had a chance to get a kill to start building his confidence, and went for the sneaky beaky play, which then would have tanked his confidence more, which then carried through the rest of the series. And it's like, I get it, he's a young player and he's still learning and stuff, but like people were saying that round was inconsequential. It's just the pistol round. I was like, he had a bad map 1. It's a series that they already knew that Gamer Legion had beaten Mouse, I'm pretty sure at the time, because we were saying that on the cast, that you get to play against Gamer Legion for a spot in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then if you drop to the lower bracket, we all knew it was going to be Spirit versus NAVI as that game, and one of those two was going to be in the lower bracket. There's no way you're getting past that.
Did you catch that comm? I think it was like End of Nuke or something, where Twist was like kind of like, I don't know if he was pissed off at Ultimate or something, but he was saying something like, bro, I was trying to keep you alive for so long, or something like that. And I don't know if you guys caught that at the end. I think it was caught on stream for a moment, or like in a okay, never mind.
I wasn't on that
because
game.
I wasn't sure if I caught it wrong, or if it was just like in a like different context than I was thinking. Then never mind. I mean, people might have seen it.
Are they cooked? Are Liquid cooked?
No.
You think they'll be fine?
Yeah, well, I think there's 2 factors to this event that I think should be like kind of kept in mind. I think one, They stripped down their playbook pretty hardcore. Like if you watch that Spirit series, they ran like 3 plays on the T side. They did really well with those 3 plays, but they stripped everything down to the basics because they felt like things were being overcomplicated with Nertz's addition, I'm assuming, in some of the lead up. So they kind of just took everything back to the basics and just kind of played that really fundamental style. So they'll flesh that out and maybe that'll show some improvement. I think also to the Spirit game was like, I know Nertz tweeted out that he had the flu. He was like extremely sick. Like they didn't know.
Yeah, but don't activate YNK's trap card because we always talk about players. They're always sick. Players are always sick.
No, I mean to the extent to where they didn't know if he was going to play in the match.
He had a 40 fever like the night before.
They had Mither pack his gear up and bring it to the arena just in case, or the studio just in case. And like that's not to be an excuse. I don't know if they would have beat Spirit, but I think this team is going to get better. I don't know by how much. I still think if they want to start beating top 5 teams consistently, having deeper runs, I think there's probably one more change in the future of this team before they can get to a new ceiling. I think maybe the scariest thing, it's still early returns, but you still have that same issue of not being able to contend with the top 5 teams, being able to beat teams that you should beat and not being able to escalate to beat the top 5.
Nerds and Twists entering together looks kind of sexy.
Nerds is
not gonna lie, Nerds is really good, and I think they need to play more default as CT. Like for me, that's also one of the problems. There's too many moves, too many setups. There's always something. And I think people are game planning around that. And it's like obvious to them. And they're
sure
just
that something's coming.
And they're sort of just doing a little bit of something because they know Liquid's going to react. And then they're just set up to punish that reaction. That's it. That's their whole T side revolves around those things. And I think if they do that, we'll see an improvement.
I would like them to drop whatever they think is the weakest map in their map pool right now and play Train, because like I think they're the team who needs to kind of take that risk in the map pool to have a bogey map.
Been good for a while.
JK has the B anchor
or NAF, could be either.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, put the other one in Ivy and
it
doesn't. Fine.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I like for
Eternal, I would put NAF on B. By
Eternal Fire don't really play anybody Ivy. They put Wok6 AWP Ivy for the start of the round because it's a tough position to throw any util to. He just posts up with the AWP as Madja supports. Who is it? Wakadia and Zantara is getting close pop and main. And then as the round settles in, once they blocked pop, they blocked main, and Wok6 watched Ivy for ages, then maybe Madja will come and take it, and Wok6 gets freed up, and he can actually play somewhere else on the map.
It's a weird situation for the op train now, like because of that little change that they made around the Ivy, right? Because you don't really have. I mean, you have to move around a lot to get angles, and
you can get
stuff
smoked off really easily.
Yeah. I mean, that was always the case in some ways, right? Like, I mean, there was already very small, kind of windows that you had as an opera, to look into team main, but now, as much as that's bigger, then it's so much easier to smoke off, and then you're kind of locked down either behind site or in Ivy or some shit.
I think the big issue for the opera is like you used to be able to get those angles towards main, and if they smoked you off, there was like another one on the other side of a train, a train down, and now it's just like.
I mean, you could also push that past that smoke, and play around the site. Like there's just a lot more kind of
outer yard
play.
That outer yard on train is crazy.
It's a bit weird now.
It's gonna be fun to see how that map evolves, though.
Well, there will be changes. It's just curious to see what Valve address as the changes,
right?
Because the complaints from the players is a lot nostalgia based on things that they liked from the old version. But what's going to happen is the adjustments are going to go based off of what is being played in the new version, right? Like, what is the meta? What are teams abusing? What is the most standard maneuvers? Is it too slow? Is there one spot that they're always hitting? So you probably see the adjustments come into areas like that.
I hate the icon area, camera, whatever you guys want to call it. I hate that whole back area.
The backtracks.
The one that's closed off.
Yeah.
I just feels like so much wasted and unused space where I'm like, what is this supposed to be?
It always felt like that on train though, right? You never really went back lanes. In 1.6, it was still pretty rare as well.
But at least in that whatever under heaven, you would go a lot. You would see people go a lot and then play around it, because I mean, people would kind of half check that corner like every other round almost, like, so you had some things to play around there, but not anymore.
A was also camper's paradise after the bomb is planted. So that's why they are, it forces you to sort of still be active a little bit even after you plant the bomb.
Yeah.
Unless you've gotten all the kills already, then you can chill.
I don't really mind that part. It's more about kind of the lack of like fast plays overall. I mean, the only thing you can do is out of team main, because to get even control of old pop, you have to do so much more than you used to before. And like everybody CTs are just there faster most of the time from both angles, and you're kind of fucked. And you're like, how can we even approach this? I
like the suggestion. We talked about it on HLTV, and I put the video in. If this is like a guy who had some map changes. Okay. He had an idea that was just keep where pop's drop down was, but no ladder. So like as a T, you can drop in, and then you're committed, or you can still go around the long way.
Okay.
And the thing is, because teams like Complexity are throwing like harassment HEs or mollies through the gap that exists in main now to stop them scaling pop, you could throw that molly, and then you could have someone drop down pop straight away and be there quicker.
But there's some, like, I don't think that molly actually catches every single spawn. I think that's CTs can still beat it.
I don't know.
And
I'd have
get there
to check
first.
best T spawn versus best CT spawn.
I think it.
You might be able
I
to
think
tank
best
some
CT spawn still gets through.
So that it's risk versus reward because you're locked into that position in that fight, right? So
Yeah, but then you have like, that's the problem. Like, you now have B guys being able to help, right? And even if somebody drops, you're always going to be. We do that. We saw it a lot, actually. I mean, ropz was doing that a lot, like just making aggressive plays with fucking Apex, just holding a flash for him. Like there's so many. There's actually a lot more opportunity for CTs, even though you've kind of made it easier for Ts to enter that space as well, because it's not a fucking ladder that you have to drop down, you know? So I feel like maybe that change didn't quite play out the way that Valve probably intended.
It makes it more of a versatile position in how it can be used, right? You see more variety in that area, whether or not that variety is good variety, there's more variety.
It's not good for the Ts. You can sit, at least not for now.
They have to expel more utility, right? You saw Complexity as well would drop a low ramp molly and a HE on the T side while running through the white walls before they go through a gap. So I have one that I need to ask about because I didn't get to do any of their games. FaZe, what are we making of them with the Elysia edition? I watched some of the Skybox and I see the positions Elysia's playing, and Launder's made a tweet which I'm kind of in line with. In my opinion, and people are going to say, but Frozen played well. I don't care. Frozen should take over all the ropz' positions, and Elysia and Rain should get the positions that they want. People are like, oh, but Rain played anchor before. I'm like, okay, fine. Frozen is naturally more baity. Rain is not. Rain is going to be more selfless for the team. And I think Elysia should get all the positions he wants as well. That's just my opinion.
You can tell sometimes that Elysia is still feeling like he's in Complexity.
Well,
I think he's going. I don't know if it's maybe also it's kind of the Kerrigan school, because he's always been the guy who's like, just peek, just go for it. Like if you feel like it, go for it, right? And so partly that's probably from that as well. But sometimes it feels like Elysia just feels like he needs to do more than now, you know, having the team around him.
Elysia likes to make plays.
Oh yeah, for sure.
he likes to go for things and make plays, for sure. I thought they looked fine. I thought they looked good. I thought Elysia looked good within the team. I don't know. I didn't really have any kind of like crazy statement on FaZe, to be honest with you.
Well, we were on early games. I don't think you were on early games too.
I didn't cast it.
I did some of their stuff or watched some of the other games. For example, the Eternal Fire one, I watched the full thing, and it feels like sometimes they just open way too flat, right? Like against Vitality, the first map, they got owned, right? And then against Eternal Fire, obviously the first map as well. And how much of that is just maybe not being prepared well enough, or maybe, you know, people just not being on point individually, not coming ready to play. It did seem at times maybe in the Eternal Fire game that their energy wasn't where it's supposed to be, you know, for a game like that.
I just thought it was funny. I said this at lunch earlier today. I just thought it was funny. Like the first interview he gave in FaZe was just like, yeah, I'm gonna have to work on fixing their comms more like some of the things we had in Complexity. And I wanted to be like, what?
What happened?
Like, wait, they were just in a major final. I mean, obviously,
they are always crazy. Like if you listen to FaZe, they're always kind of they're pretty chaotic.
I think it's also in the Eternal Fire game, or at least on Nuke, right? Like Brocky had a lot of his clutches, but also you saw some of the misses towards the very end and some of the inconsistencies. It's like, I think if you're FaZe, you would have liked it if he was able to evolve a little bit more over his time there in some of the stuff that didn't come naturally to him, which is just playing with a little bit less pace at times, being patient some more, right, in different situations. Because yeah, sure, he thrives in the chaos and when there's a lot of action going on, but that's not going to be the case all the time. So it's tough, because when he's playing good, he's sort of the difference maker for them, and that's when they have these deep runs and potentially go on to lift trophies. But when he's not, that's when they kind of tend to falter and maybe not even get into the playoffs.
This is the thing. Like I need to go back and watch more of the games to kind of.
I also watched like one.
I think they're probably going to change a lot between now and what the major looks like in terms of the way that they approach the game. Like this is just so early.
Well, do you think so? Like
positionally,
I
don't think they're going to play the same as they're playing right now. I think they'll have conversations.
It's curious how they sorted that out, right? Because it's almost seems like
solve it.
But it almost feels like they're not. I mean, Kerrigan's never been the way where he's just going to pigeonhole somebody into a role and then just keep him there across the entire map pool, right? So they're just solving things map by map, literally, and then just trying to see where
Let me tell you how it's nonsense. Okay, Twitch chat, you guys can tell me if I'm wrong here, but I'm pretty sure when I was looking at Nero's table of all the positions, that Carrigan is now anchoring the A bomb site on Anubis.
I'm trying to remember if
I saw it in the Anubis game. He was there, but there was also a round or two when Elige was there with Brokey. So I don't know what's the reason for that, but yeah. But so I think more when the rifle is there, it's Carrigan.
But if Carrigan is the A anchor on Anubis, then they're
dead.
That's the stupidest thing.
They
I've
need
ever
to
heard.
ban that map.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Right. Like, why would you put
was he
Frozen there?
Where was he before?
Mid.
Was he mid?
Yeah. Put Frozen there. Put Rain there. Don't put Elige there. Either put Elige mid or pop. Don't put Carrigan as the A anchor on Anubis.
I mean, they're trying to kind of accommodate there to some extent. Even when you look at their nuke,
people said
it's Frozen is ramped, but sometimes Brokey is ramp on his own. Sometimes they do I don't know what. Elige is going secret, and then Rain is helping from main to fight as well. It's almost like they want to give everyone every position.
Just play spawn base.
And then Kerrigan is playing A. So that's and Brokey is the op. Those are the two things that are set, and everything else sometimes it feels a little bit more fluid.
Right now.
Well, I think that guy probably just
this thing.
No, it is.
He has the bomb sides the other way around.
Someone in chat said B, but I don't believe them. I don't know why I'm getting one guy.
That's the problem. I call ancient AB all the time, just Anubis, just because of fucking ancient and how that threw everything out of the window. How you're used to calling sides, because that has B on the right side, the smaller one. So I'm like, fuck, man.
Definitely A.
Yeah.
I got fucking one guard again.
I can't.
That's a chat classic.
That one guy.
Fucking one guard all the time. One guard. All right. I guess we got to hit a few other of the big teams.
Sure.
Yanko's favorite G2.
Yeah. I know they lost to Virtus Pro in the first game, and I said, and I did the video on Twitter about their T side on Mirage from the Falcons game, but I think it was a little bit even more egregious in the Virtus Pro game. There's just too many set calls, too many. Oh, we're just throwing two smokes mid and we're gonna pop A, or we're gonna rush A, or we're going to do a fast B split, or all of that. And for me, that's not a way to win consistently in Tier 1, because even Falcons in that game were sort of ready for it and were countering them. And it was a little bit some of the clutches and some fortunate moments that sort of enabled G2 to come out on top, which was weird because especially in the Falcons game, when it did play default, it was fine. Like it worked well. They did well in it. So I don't know, this desire to freeze time call so much, but yeah, I'm not a fan of that.
This might be me talking on my ass, but if I put myself in G2's position and just try and imagine what they're currently experiencing within that team, you just had Nico depart and Mobs kind of step into that role in those positions. Mobs has got skills, but he doesn't have the experience, and he doesn't probably have the big picture approach. And I would imagine Nico did a lot of help in mid rounds in terms of what he wanted to do. So even if there's a round where Snacks calls something in freeze time or out of spawn, I'm sure Nico was like, I'm going to get mid control. I'm going to try and find a position in con, or he's going to be communicating something in the mid round that allows them to add an extra layer onto what Snacks wanted to do. And now you're missing that force who can kind of call a play for himself within the context of what they're trying to do.
I agree with that sentiment. I think they have to try and work out what their identity of their approach is going to be, because Nico is one of, if not the greatest rifler of all time, and the level of impact that he has on the game and the decision he makes, he has such a high IQ for the game, right? So he's often making calls, and then Snacks could organize everybody else around that. And that is, either seen as a luxury or not. It depends. Like, it's, if you want to be an in-game leader who, I guess more like probably what Hooksy was like, where you're calling the shots all the time, then that becomes a harder balance. But if I had a Nico on my team, I would want to play to that strength of having a Nico. Now that they don't, I guess that they're in a period of time it's working out based off of what you said. Yeah, Malbs, you can't replicate. Maybe mechanically you can, but decision-making you can't in terms of what Nico would bring. And then you have Mondesi, who's also still pretty young, even though he's a great player. And then Heavy God, who this is his best team ever. So then you look to Hunter, which is why when Taz said in the interview that Hunter's going to do the CT sides, that's not a surprising thing. Yeah. Also,
it's a surprising thing that it wasn't like that from the start. That was the surprising thing.
You mean from when they lost Nico?
Yeah.
Oh, there wasn't? I didn't realize.
Yeah, that's how I didn't either. He said like they changed it that day or like that day ago. Or something.
How are you meant to, as snacks playing anchor positions, organize the CT side? That's the whole reason. Like that's why like an Apex will still play a position on a map that is like a map control position, so that he can coordinate. And people will be like, oh yeah, but you should put your weakest player as like Mirage Bigger. Okay, fine, but that means your system and trust, big thing YNK talks about with Vitality, or at least once upon a time, needs to be really strong. Like NAVI, you know, everybody goes to class in NAVI and Blade to the front with the fucking blackboard, and he's writing everything down, and they're sitting up there and they're noting on their phones and they're listening. They all know the theory. Alexi doesn't need to make the decision what's happening on mid on Mirage because Imma is, because Bit knows how to react, because JL knows what he needs to do, right? Like everybody knows what's going on, whereas this isn't the case for all the teams. Maybe one day it will be, but that's
strength of a good coach right there.
So I don't think what you said, Jason, was talking out of your ass at all. I think it's fucking bang on.
I think it's also, I mean, you can see it on CT sides as well, YNK. I mean, you know how much Nico was calling shit on CT side, and we can see it. Like when I talked to Zonic after they went out, he's like, yeah, I put Nico in charge of our CT sides instantly, and then you can see how much of an impact he had outside of obviously his massive output. I mean, across the whole game, right?
Is this a new trend, or is this just teams talking about it openly for the first time that I've recognized it of having? Because you've always had players and teams that are more comfortable calling maybe a T or a CT side. Yeah, you've had certain teams who have said, I'm more vocal on CT sides, but now we have coaches and shit saying this is our CT side caller. Is this a new evolution that teams are saying you're our T side IGL and you're kind of our CT side captain?
You're talking about only about the communication part of it, not it actually happening.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know.
As in, like they're only saying it now, like rather than that's like
it's always been a concept, but it's never been like an official like role or something. Yeah. But it's always been like this guy understands CT side rotations a lot better, so let him take the helm.
I think it's more to do with round openings and setups than it is to do with like mid round. Well, no, but mid round is just
because like oppers are always going to be vocal about how they want to play a CT side.
The most knowledgeable guy about the game isn't necessarily your in-game leader all the time.
Sure.
So also, you always need to have two guys on CT in a way. You have to have the main guy and the secondary guy because you have two sides, right? So, for example, in FaZe, Nico was the main caller, and I mean, Coldzera had a lot of responsibility. Actually, it became so that Cold was more calling the CT side than Nico, but you need to, like depending on what happens on one side, a guy on the other, you always have to do stuff as a team. So you need to have people who are going to be able to react to what's going on the other side and control this side. You can't have, guys fighting for banana and then people on A just sort of standing holding. No, that's when you block. When you're doing something on the other side, you block here.
I understand an example of this? I'm just curious if like teams being so vocal about it now. Like I've never seen a coach come out and say he's our CT side caller before.
It's just involved in teams. Like people didn't have that much stuff on CT. They would just like come out and rounds would start happening. I think a lot of it is sometimes you have it because teams are introducing, young players, new players, and then maybe they don't know that they even should do something in a situation. So then let's say, I know it's middle and Nico is connector and his job is to sort of decipher whether they're actually going for mid control and defaulting mid, or did they throw nades and want to pop somewhere? And then he gets that information, hopefully, and perhaps has to tell some, hey, you guys play close up or block them now, right? Just because he's like firsthand sort of seeing it.
But is this also like kind of conceptually behind the scenes as well? Like, and when you're actually building your game, like does, like, if you want to give an example or something, does Nico, I know it's been a while since you actually were behind him, right? But does Nico actually build the CT sides in terms of, okay, these are our opening moves, this is what we can do on the map, or is it really more of an intuition thing where he's going to call middle of the round, something happens on the other side of the map, he's going to say, like, let's say Inferno, he plays B aggressive, he's going to be like, let's crunch mid because they're just pushing apps or whatever it is, like, how does this work really?
Well, back then it's more so for your position or for where you play, you come up with plays and you have plays that you want to do. So for him, it's like being Inferno, there's all this thing that we do, and then you come from the beginning, okay, so when we want to do this on banana, this is what we should do on A. And then you also have, Cole, if he's saying, okay, I want to do this setup now. He was good also at reading the opponents. He's like, I want to do the mid setup now. All right, so the B guys then, you need to chill a little bit. You don't want to go for the full banana fight, and it's sort of playing off of each other. And then you have these main things that both sides want to do, and that sort of you mold that together into a full round, depending on we're playing against a force buy, against a full buy, what's our buy. You have all these different rounds for that, or small plays and small setups. and then it's just about constantly adapting throughout the round, right? Like, I mean, you open with one call, and then you're adapting, seeing what happens, what's going on. But for us, it was kind of like that, and I feel it always you always have to have those two guys on CT side and T side that are a little bit more controlling, because you can have good players, but who are sort of don't move too much until you don't react too much. They just stand there, right? Yes, they're not too good at maybe taking initiative, but you just have a guy who hey, come, let's do this, and they'll come and it will be fine. So.
Yeah, I was just curious how much of it is really kind of even from the start of it, from the onset of a team, like these are the plays that I have in mind, like if that's what's happening in Falcons now, for example.
Well, I think also my teams always had really experienced tier 1 players, and we would play a good amount off of feel and play good amount of default, right? Because when you have that, you have the luxury of your players making quicker, better decisions in the mid round and during default, so you should play to that strength instead of just making them stand in setups all the time. And so but if you have a different team, obviously younger players, less experience, then you're going to have more structure and things a little bit more set to make it easier for them while they accrue the experience. And sort of once you do something 5 times in a game and you've seen 3 different things that happen out of it, now you get it. Now you're like, all right, so this is what I need to be careful if X happens and so on.
Yeah, I mean, it's always interesting just to hear about how teams kind of, obviously, if you're like, I'm just going to be a stupid person here, but if you're pugging, you're obviously looking at, okay, I'm going B or I'm going A. And you don't really look at that interconnection and how much these people actually play off of each other. And on certain maps, that really comes into play, right? I mean, you have more so on some than the others, because like Inferno is a good example of that. I mean, it's just such a heavily segregated map, and you need to have some help on both sides depending on the situation, right?
I think a lot of it comes down to, are you going to be the ones to have the dictating opening move on the CT side, or are you going to be the ones to have the reactive move, right? Like Nuke, if you're losing yard all the time, well, you need to do something. You need to play a yard control on the CT side with 2 to 3 players, push a guy up behind red, get a guy looking towards top silo. Or do we go, okay, we're just going to drop a guy down secret instantly if they do smoke while you get that early information? Right? Like, it's obviously map dependent and stuff, but even back when I was playing, like, okay, Mirage, okay, we've fucked them on the extremities. It's likely they're going to go into default to take control of mid. Let's do a mid control. Let's molly behind the mid box. Let's push up. Let's fight. If they don't come immediately, let's hang around because they might just be defaulting late. Or if we get mid, let's now just quickly hedge the sites because they're about to execute. Like, it's all just.
I mean, fucking Mirage is like the most fascinating map about that, because CT side is so awkward in so many places, and you just have to either be completely passive on A, or you're going to take an aggressive push, right? Or you're taking action middle, and then the A guy has to react to that as well, right? And like, it's all these push and pull constant, depending on what's happening on the map, where it's not so segregated as on other maps, So it's just, I don't know, I just find this fun.
We've done G2. We didn't do Falcons, but what is there to really say about Falcons?
Yeah, Yanko's got something.
No, I mean, I think they looked good in the G2 game. They look bad at some moments, good in other moments. For example, Eternal Fire series was very inconsistent. I think, honestly, they were just kind of unlucky in the G2 game on Mirage, how some of the rounds went that they could have easily ended up winning that series and stayed in the tournament a little bit longer. But yeah, I saw Kasa, of course, tweet something like, "Oh, they look apps, they're terrible." Like, if you watch the games, that's not true. So yeah, I think with more time to practice and figure, because you also have Zonic and Maggot there. You have the heroic core with Kixan, and then you have Nico coming in. Like, that's a lot of different pieces that you need to fit together, and for these guys to sort of get used to playing with each other in a way. So it was good to see Maggots had a 1v4 clutch and sort of remember that he still has it.
Everybody was on his ass. Like, in the previous iteration of Falcons, he's like the god and the only one who's untouchable. And he comes into this new team, he has a shit game. Everybody's like, fucking get him out.
I don't know.
Kick him out of this retirement home.
Jesus Christ.
He has leeway because of all the things he's achieved, and that's fine, but that's not going to last forever.
I mean, in the previous Falcons, he was the one shining light. I mean, in a lot of ways, I think
the one non-darkness. I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
Englando.
When you mentioned Kassar just then, you made me think of another salacious headline.
Cannot spell Kassad without ass and sad.
I was going to say cracks starting to show in analyst team.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Layers.
I was just waiting for you to just come up with a Serbian man or something, but then that could be two people, so that was a bit difficult.
The donkey stuck in the mud if we're talking about that.
Right.
Okay, let's get on to the. Can we get on to the playoffs?
That's got to be an Australian term.
Yeah,
right?
No, it's a Serbian.
That's a Serbian. one.
Is it?
Yeah, we have a different way of saying you strike the iron while it's hot, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is it again?
Same with
The donkey stuck in the mud?
Never mind.
Just remind us after. the
It's more for a talking
enough.
counter audience
Yeah,
than
fair
a
enough,
HLTV
fair
confirmed
Yeah,
audience.
we'll do it in
That's
the
all
next
good.
ad break.
I don't know. I have to keep up with that. The other podcast more, I guess.
Okay. The playoff bracket is set. I don't think we need to talk about VP because they're going to have a stand-in, and we already touched
Fucking
on.
hell, man.
Which
it's
sucks.
That's so
Yeah.
bad.
But it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, what can you do, right?
So let's make the broad assumption that we're going to get Spirit moving forward, which I think we all would have gone with anyway, to take on NAVI. That's going to be the later games. And then to start off, you're
Eternal
going to
Fire Mongols.
yes, and then
on
the winner of that will
Vitality's
take on
side.
Vitality.
Yeah.
So I guess let's start with
Kind of cool how it worked out that way, huh?
the national teams.
Vitality against the Eternal Fire again.
Yes.
Spirit against Navi again, potentially. You know, like the rivalries, the one-sided rivalries of last year.
Someone will have to win an arena game.
Out of Mongolz and Eternal Fire. Yeah. So that's actually the best matchup that they could have gotten against each other because they're both so inexperienced within those matches. Would you say second arena match for Mongolz?
Second Mary, it's after the major, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they haven't played anything since.
Well, I don't know. Thunderpick was pretty good arena.
Yeah,
that was the Thunderdome.
That had a
Bro,
circle
that
arena.
that was like for them, for the Mongols, they were the home team there. I
somehow.
think they just rode that energy and they smashed Heroic and got third place in the Val ranking.
But yeah,
500,000.
it's pretty good. It's not bad for them
Not
at all.
bad,
But
yeah.
they looked really flat against Navi. But by losing the game to Navi, they avoid Spirit's side of the bracket. So I don't know. You tell me who's the real
happy
winner.
little accident.
Tell me who's the real winner, Jason.
Yeah, I think Mongolz is.
Yeah, but they have a bit of history. Mongolz and Eternal Fire. They played last year in the Sky Esports thing. Mongolz beat them. They played in Cologne. Mongolz beat them. Mongolz lost them at EPL.
Okay.
So
Well, and it feels like this Eternal Fire is looking real hot to start the second half of the year as well. Probably
They were looking in danger at some point, though.
this move they've made for Joda instead of Katowice has been awesome.
Joda showed some
Which makes me feel bad.
for Calix.
Just because he stepped up at the end of at least in my mind, when I was watching Eternal Fire games like the major at the end of the year, I was like, Calix has hit like a new level.
He was having
Now-
some impactful anchor rounds, but
Yeah.
he's not as proactive as someone like
No,
Joda.
he's absolutely not.
Yeah.
His impact comes in different areas, and this one is clearly needed. But I am just like, oh, you did step up your game, but we're still going to be seeing you off. It's fine.
I don't think it was terrible. I mean, Calix is just
No, it
like
wasn't
if you
terrible.
if you want to take the next step, I guess
Yeah,
you need to
sure.
get the new guy in, right?
I think whoever keeps their cool on that stage is going to come out on top. I think for Eternal Fire, the reason why they made it was they finally realized they need to be a little bit more chill when they play. I think Jota helps with that as well because
Okay.
he's like sort of bringing them some positive energy as well, even when things are a little bit tough. Major was talking about it in the post-game interview after the FaZe series. And for the Mongols as well, you know, I don't know why people expecting them to win the major when they've never been in that sort of an environment.
People are
Like,
getting carried away.
obviously, it's going to be a different experience for them, but also a good team that also, I feel it's not really spoken about, but I think they also have a little bit of a problem managing their emotions in some games where they can get, you know, frustrated blitz especially and just sort of going full
He
out
does still.
in a way. And
Phone call from Illinois.
okay, do you want to answer it? Or?
Who do you know in Illinois?
No one.
We should have answered it. It would have been great on
There's
the
no
show.
way you don't know
Are they
anyone
calling
in Illinois.
still?
It's like a telemarketer. Or
If they call again, answer.
Okay,
Yeah.
I got that.
We'll do it on the show.
Oh, they're calling again.
So let's see who it is.
yeah, who it is?
Hello?
You just got hacked.
Hello? I'm doing great. How are you?
Bigger phone.
It depends on. They might have some of his
Yeah,
information.
just like,
Imagine if they start sending his bank details.
yeah. it's-
I don't remember putting my number on anything now.
It is a person with an Indian accent.
Striker's got good ears.
Okay, that's enough.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
well, we could have
I
pranked.
mean, it
we
was
could have
a
done
little bit
prank.
serious there for a moment. I was like, you know,
all right.
I didn't know what to say. He's just like, have you put your number on a coupon last year at any point? I was like, nope.
Oh.
I got
Not
nothing.
me,
There's
motherfucker.
nothing I can really come back to that
Yeah,
with.
yeah.
That's the hard one.
That's unfortunate. We could have trolled them, but okay. We were talking about something. Oh, Eternal Fire, Mongolz. You're saying Mongolz tilt blitz.
Yeah, like sometimes he also just goes for some
Loses
full
goal.
YOLO plays, and maybe you can even see it it reflects maybe on the calling a little bit too. In some situations they go for that YOLO style at times, but yeah, let's see. It's up to them to evolve and take that next step, and that's why I think it will be a cool game to watch.
I asked, I did a playoff podcast today with Mazinho and Techno, and then Alexi and Bit on the other side, and I was like, "Oh, does Mara ever get mad?" And they were like, "Yeah." And I was like in game, like when you're playing, he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, I go to Mazinho, like, how can we tell if Mara's mad? And he goes, "Hold on, I got too many things.
I'll hold.
Put this out." He goes, Mara's eyebrows go like this. It was a cute little moment. But
Mazinho, who was the last one?
Alexi B. Techno.
Techno. There you go.
Yeah.
Those three. Those you couldn't have gotten a lot out of those three, though.
No, Bit was pretty good.
Okay.
He was pretty energized. Mazinho's good fun. Techno's very timid. Even though he speaks the best English, he's quite timid.
Yeah.
So I got to work out how to get him out of his skin.
We have to work out how to get all of them out of their skin, man.
Mazinho's he could be funny. I think he can.
Yeah.
Be funny.
Mazino's hilarious.
Yeah.
They just don't really want to put themselves out there. That's the problem.
It's
I
just hard, man.
I
It's
just-
the same. I had Fame and Flit come and join me as well, and like we asked for electronic initially, but Dennis said, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do a podcast in English because and then when Flit and Fame came before we went rolling, they were like, we just can't express ourselves as well as we want to.
But they're okay.
I
Those
know.
two are definitely okay. Yeah.
That's what I said to him. I said, your English is good. And I was like, and look, if you struggle, we'll help you get there. Like, that's why we're here. We're here to help you get like to what you want to say.
Yeah.
But that was really good vibes with, I had Apex, Flamesy, Flit, and Fame. And it was actually pretty funny.
That's going to be pretty good.
That was a pretty funny one. So if we had to do picks around the room, Mongolz or EF?
Yeah.
EF are going to ban Ancient. Mongolz going to ban Train. I think EF would pick Anubis. What are they, 8 in a row on Anubis something right now?
They're
Haven't lost it
crazy.
this year.
They look good.
I'd go with EF as well.
I would go with EF too.
I think this,
Centaurus.
it'd be like Anubis pick. I think Anubis pick for EF, Mirage pick for Mongolz, maybe Nuke as the third.
Yeah.
Could be, yeah.
Mongols lets that go. Yeah, I'm still taking Eternal Fire. Xantar's is playing real fucking good right now. Really good.
And I'm taking Major over Blitz. No, I mean in terms of what's funny, asshole.
Oh, that was a joke.
It'd be nice to Jason.
We'd had a conversation earlier about like
In terms of game planning and stuff. I
it was when we
trust
had a
him,
lunch. It was just funny.
Didn't have to qualify that, but it's okay.
yeah.
Okay, so that's the first.
Yeah. I mean, there's not as much opportunity to crumble as well as there might be for Mongols.
That's true. I think Mongols are maybe more reliant on their individuals hitting hard and making plays, whereas I think Eternal Fire are a bit more team based.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that I don't think the Mongols have an approach to the game. They definitely do, and I think that they still can have good macro at times. But it's based off individuals understanding where the gaps are and making.
How's
plays.
Senzu doing, by the way, with that broken arm?
Well,
whatever.
I
hand?
asked today. Mazinho said, "I said, what percentage would you put on it? Like 70%?" He said, "Oh, like 30." So maybe he didn't understand the question.
Yeah.
Because I was like, "Oh, so he's not wearing the thing anymore?" And he was like, "No, he's still wearing it, just not when he's playing." And I was like,
Oh, it's the same.
Because he's
Okay.
a man.
"Yeah, that's what he said on air."
I mean, I
that was
think.
funny.
Oh yeah, I heard that.
And I asked how he broke it, and apparently, because the picture was from their like company New Year's meal or whatever, right?
Yeah.
That's that. So, but what happened was they were saying it was minus 30 degrees where they were, and
Oh,
everything
shit.
was icy, and he slipped over, and that's how he broke his hand.
Okay.
That's fair. Minus
Yeah,
30
because
is
they
gotta be
were
icy.
even supposed to come to the award show, and then suddenly we hear, we
We're
had
not
some
going.
injuries, and we're like multiple, or what the fuck happened at that, New Year's party or whatever.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what happened.
Okay,
What's the next one?
so that would give us EF versus Vitality, and then I think we're all going to assume VP with a stand-in can't beat Spirit.
Yeah,
Okay,
No.
and then, again, we already spoke about VP earlier in the
VP
episode.
without a stand can't beat Spirit. Let's just say that.
Well, this is interesting because I brought this up today, and the answer that I got from Alexi was regionally speaking, right? Like it's always a bit funky. Like when you're playing, like he was explaining that when we used to play in a Finnish team and play against
of
another
course.
Finnish team, and how anything can kind of happen in a game like that. And then actually we started talking about, they were like, yeah, and Mir's coming, and they're all scared of Mir and pugs. Like, we started yeah, apparently Mir's like a pug god. I didn't know
Okay.
this was the case.
There we
Apparently,
go.
like when the fan was like, yeah, when we're playing against Donk and Simon Bakken and Mir's on our team, like me, Flit, and Mir, we were all queuing and stuff, and they're scared of him. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I think it's obviously from pugs and stuff, but I obviously don't think VP are going to win that game. So let's talk. Do you want to talk about Spirit Navi? Because that's another game.
Yeah.
Did you cast that one? Didn't you?
I did.
The 3-mapper.
Yeah, it was a banger.
Was that like a game that came down to clutches, or did it feel like Navi were?
No, it felt like Navi hung in with them really, really well.
Nuke was kind of like that, though. It could have gone the other way because of clutches,
easily.
man.
I think Navi hung in really well, and then towards the end of games, even like the Dust 2 loss they took, the comeback, and then Nuke JL started doing his bullshit where he was just like, "Here's 2 entry kills." Like the last 4 or 5 rounds of some of these games, he was just like, "Here's 2 entries. Here's an upper bomb site. Here's access to this part of the map." He played really well. I think Navi they kind of had like a. It was weird. Like there was that one timeout that they took where Blade was just like, "Alexi, I need you to focus outside." Like Alexi was really out of it for like the first half of Nuke. Some really tough calls on T side, but those 2 teams went blow for blow. It's a sick rivalry. That should be another close, drawn out affair, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
there was no clear indication that one team was like playing on a different level and someone just like barely holding in.
Yeah, I mean, there was towards the end like of regulation, it was basically like Spirit were about to win, but then Alexi pulls out that 5-7 round or whatever.
Yeah.
And then in overtime, it's like the opposite. Shiro comes up with the fucking lower clutch, and Zontix comes up with a 1v2 he's never supposed to win, you know? Honestly, like Navi winning despite that is pretty impressive. Because like Alexi, like I talked to Alexi after that, and it's like, how do you even recover from that? And he's like, in the moment, like he was basically like, in the moment, I didn't think we could. Like I thought that broke us, man.
It's wild because like they both play like that, like pretty smart tactical style with like protocols, and it just so happens that their protocols always like they're so good at reading each other. I think because they play each other so many times. They played 8 series in the past year, so like they always are rotating to the right position. So there's always a fucking cool battle happening in that match.
Hard one to call then, right? The map pool is probably going to be the same. Mirage Dust 2.
It's tough because when you play against a team so many times and another good team is like they start to understand how you think about the game and your protocols. And that's the problem. It's like you can change your strat and you can change this, you can move people around, but the concepts that you believe are good Counter-Strike, like what are you supposed to do? Like not do those things because they will be expecting them? The answer is yes, to some extent. You need to sort of change the way you play because that matchup changes as you play time and time again, right? Like what did we see with Navi and G2? They beat them like 9-10 times in a row, right? Like eventually, obviously what you're doing is not working, so do what you don't think is the right thing, because what you think is the right thing has been losing you 9 series in a row.
I think the nice thing about that matchup is I think Navi's maybe the one team that doesn't have to be like too intimidated by Dust 2 pick from Spirit as well. They can compete with them on Dust 2.
Bro, have you guys seen the stats with Donk on Dust 2?
Yeah, it's his rating like 1.9 or something like that.
Dumb. It's like dumb as like something like that now. Yeah, it was like 180, I think, the last time I checked in the last 10 games or some shit. And you're like, how are you supposed to even win against that? You know, like if a guy is dropping 2.0 ratings almost every game, it's like insane.
Yeah, I saw someone post that he's averaging the last 3 months, his stats are higher than Simple's major MVP stats.
It was like 148 or something. Yeah, so it's kind of dumb.
It's okay, sure, different, whatever, all that is just funny. Like hearing that is just funny.
Yeah. I think in that game, I feel like Shiro still had something to give, and generally it feels like Shiro hasn't still arrived in Katowice to the same degree that Donk has, as always he always does. So I feel like there's still a level to be found from him going into playoffs. So I would probably take Spirit for that one, just over that, because Donk was still amazing in that game. I mean, they kind of let him down.
Bro, I don't know, just hearing like the team speak from Liquid in that Spirit game and Nerds dying to Shiro and like going like, this guy never goes for rounds. I swear, he never plays to win the round. And it's like true.
That's kind of true,
situation, like he's really good at maybe punishing some hyper aggressive plays and all of that. But I think the way Shiro takes his game to the next level is just be more aggressive sometimes. Go for it. And I understand you have Donk on your team and there's like you have a system in there and all of that, but just put it on film, right? So that because you can now know, when you go up against Spirit and on the CT side, that he's almost never going to be somewhere in an aggressive angle early on or try to play in someone's face a little bit of the combat topping, right? And someone will say, yeah, but that's not his style. Well, I mean, you need to be able to do multiple things. Same way you could say about Brock, he needs to learn how to be a little bit more passive and maybe hit more shots and right, or maybe you can say the same thing for Monacy at times or whoever, right? Doesn't even matter, like, because when you game plan against them, it's such a luxury to know that he's always going to be somewhere back towards the site, and then you just need to sort of have utility left to deal with him, right? And then if you get, he's always going to be falling back. He's never going to like smoke along, try to fight in it, and like be in your face and make some sort of a highlight play.
Yeah. Good news is I think Zontix is playing pretty well. I think Zontix had a good series against Navi as well. He's not like, they don't have it's not that look of spirit towards the end of last year, right before the major, where like you have like no supportive elements kind of firing. Like Zontix looks good, Magic.
Chopper's looking pretty good, man.
Really
like,
well.
He's had a lot of decent, really good games actually.
Copenhagen, he was good at blasts, and here he started out pretty well. But I mean, yeah, they got that's obviously a very dangerous team.
No, if it gets to that, I'm gonna pick Navi.
I would imagine the hard part is in that veto. I think like every single map except Anubis is in the favor of Spirit, except now Mirage and.
So I just had a look.
Tied.
Navi have 5. I don't know if like the head-to-head.
It's the head-to-head, yeah.
Okay, but Navi have won 5 Mirages in a row. Spirit have won 9 Dust 2s in a row, and Eternal Fire have won 8 Anubises in a row. So there's some teams with home maps in this playoff. Those are quite clearly those home maps right there for those names. So yeah, look,
but
if
you don't want Dust 2 to be your home map though.
Well,
dude, I brought that up during the cast because there's always like the map you're like, it's not really worth having it as like your home map because it's an upset map. But I'm like, but I'm watching Spirit just fucking destroy people on it, and I'm like, okay, fair play. Like I guess that doesn't really matter.
It's kind of funny how that changed because at some point we were kind of like, there were a couple of maps where it was just like, what the fuck are you doing? You're just like walking out B every round in a row, you know. And
teams have gotten too good with the utility and rotations now for you to be able to like pug and aim star Dust 2 the way that made it such a dangerous upset map.
I mean, in the first place, they were just really utilizing Donk to his best ability on T side, and you could tell that was like the next level. And now clearly they are.
That's Vitality's nuke.
What's that?
I understand ropz's. Vitality won the last 5 nukes in a row, but in the last 6 months, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 out of 13 nukes played in the last 6 months, Vitality have won. So we've just identified home maps for 4 of the teams in the playoffs.
Okay.
That's crazy.
Nice.
Anubis, Dust 2, Nuke, and what was the last one?
Mirage for now.
Mirage.
It might even extend past that. I don't know. So you said you're going to take Navi if it comes to a third?
Yeah, when I have to make a prediction, I'll go with Navi.
Okay. We don't have to make a prediction. We know that that's not the fun part of the conversation.
All right. I think now we will. I think now we will be Spirit.
Well, let's do this because this could inform this conversation based off what we think. We're going to do what are the odds. This one's brought to the lovely people at home by 1xBet. Now, you guys, I don't know if you've been on the show since we've done.
I haven't. This is new for me.
So, what are the odds? Essentially, is a little question that we ask, and we're all going to give a percentage of what we think the likelihood of this question is going to be. The people at home get to vote in polls on Twitter/X and Instagram
Of whose odds they agree with.
and we've set. Not whose, but we set the odds.
Okay.
So between us, there's an average of percentage made.
Gotcha.
That
And
determines
they make the
odds.
bets effectively.
Then, yes. And then it creates a kitty of money that they all win prizes from. So we give them prizes. So yeah, what are the odds brought to you by 1xBet? And this week's question.
Drum roll.
Hello, Lucas.
From the producer.
Chad Birchall calling.
He's gone AFK.
Donk doesn't win the MVP. What are the odds Donk doesn't win the MVP, obviously, of IM?
I mean, we might as well just like put the odds on the Navi and Spirit matchup and go with that, to be honest, because legitimately, if he reaches the final, he's going to get it. Like,
surely
that's how it
his
looks
odds
at the moment.
are good enough to like who would overtake him even if he loses in the semifinals?
No, but you have to remember
we've never
crawling,
had a semi,
right?
We've never had a semi MVP. Let's just say that. Like it is possible.
Why not?
Look,
Why
if
can't
somebody,
why couldn't we do it? Is that so inconceivable?
if somebody's going to break
Because
that
he was
barrier,
that
it's gonna
good,
be
he
him.
would be in the fucking final now,
Yeah,
wouldn't
that's
he?
basically
But
usually
that's
how
not
it
always
goes.
how it works.
Okay, Jason, hold on. I feel like you're getting bullied.
I mean,
again.
Nerds was really good until the game versus Spirit.
Jason, don't let him get to you.
I no, I'm fine. I'm just saying that's not a crazy thing to be
No,
like.
it's
Donk's
not.
got like
It's
a
not.
1.6 rating if he gets out in the semifinals, but the next person has 1.2. Are we really?
That's an insane thing to say.
Why?
He said it's not, and he decides the MVP.
Why?
I'm just saying, like we've never
Again, maybe HLTV
does too
a
much
little
power.
bit too much power.
So-
No, but I mean, like it's never happened before. But like there was a situation where we thought like if Donk loses despite this, there's a like Katowice, you know, like if he had lost the semi and then like the entire team crumbles around him. I don't know how he wouldn't have given it to him. Even like if he just dominates the semi and loses it, at that point you're like, how the fuck can we not? You know, like it's just so fucking egregious.
I get it. That one would be, it's like an exception to the rule, but that was a historic run.
Yeah.
He's not having a historic run now. He's
So
playing
right now,
really well.
He's at 1.45 rating.
Yeah.
Bid is at 1.
It's not 1.75, Jason.
Fair enough.
What bid is
That's
at?
great. I didn't say it was. I
Jason, I'm
just said it
sorry.
was a good
Jason,
rating.
just take a breath, okay? I'm here for you.
happening?
Jason, I'm here for you. Bid's at a 1.38.
Now you're here for him.
JL's at a 1.32 and Zywa's at a 1.28. the next left in the tournament is Zentaro's at 1.26. So let's say that Donk farms the fuck out of VP. Do you weight it based off the fact they have a stand-in, or that doesn't matter?
I mean, there's like we do take competition into account, but like once you get to the playoffs, it's kind of like that's like the most pressure you can have anyway. So at that point, you know, like we did that for actually G2 was the same situation. Like when we did bounty EVPs and stuff, we had to take into account the bed boom situation and like them just coming into with two stand-ins and just getting destroyed by G2 because it's not even their real team, you know, coming in. So like in cases, we will of course take it into account.
Even worse, they had Nafani as a stand.
Yeah.
So let's say that Donk wins the quarter, has a huge rating, like a 1.7, 1.8 rating, right? And then loses to Navi, but has on par for what his rating's been so far. So maybe has a series where he gets like 1.45, like on, which would be crazy, and they lose. But Bit has a good series there. Well, and Bit has a good series in the final.
But then it's like, you know,
Bit would win.
Let me see. Actually, I haven't really looked at anything at the moment.
It might, like, I don't know.
I mean, I'm with Striker. The first thing he said, what are the odds of them losing to Navi in the semi? And then whatever the odds are for that, those are the odds of him not winning the MVP.
Well, you said you think that Navi.
I would give him like another whatever 5% for getting that semi-final MVP or whatever on top of that. But that's about what I would do. But yeah, at the moment, I mean, of course, it like comes down to competition as well. You know, well, like if Zaiwu keeps dominating and then he goes to the final, then we can't really give it to a semi-final.
Their head-to-head is 2-6. Navi's 1-2. Spirit's 1-8.
So the odds
we
are
bring that
Navi.
down to 1-3. So the odds would be.
I mean, we have the odds. We have the odds literally somewhere. Like if we look at actual betting,
you mean the
like
gamble odds? Sorry, sports betting.
By no specific.
No, by 1xBet.
Okay, I should probably do that.
There he is.
I can't do that. Fuck, because it's not. We don't actually have that matchup yet.
Fucked.
Lost
it all.
Yeah.
That's true. We can't.
Yeah, but it will be like, let's say it's going to be 55 to Spirit, maybe ish.
Yeah,
I would imagine that's going to be somewhere like
so you
that.
think there's a 55%?
I think I will give it. I would give it 60 because of that possibility.
60% for Striker. Okay, 60%. Lucas will whack that one up on screen.
But you guys have your.
That Donk. You're saying 60% chance that Donk does not win the MVP.
No,
40%. You want a 40%?
Oh, okay, 40.
Yeah,
sorry. Yeah,
the question is, yeah. So make it 40%, Lucas. Donk does not win the MVP.
And that's, I mean, I should have also taken into account the crazy scenario where VP beats Spirit, but okay, fuck it.
That is a crazy scenario.
Yeah, but it is like, whatever. You can thank him another 5% for that one, whatever.
All right, Jason, what do you think?
I'm going with the head-to-head matchup odds, which is 33%. So it'd be 67% that he doesn't win.
67% that Donk doesn't win the MVP.
That's correct.
No, it's the other way around.
33%.
33% that Donk doesn't win the MVP.
American maths.
You even use the matchup, like you know, the Spirit is the.
I know, but then I did the reverse math with like the 60-40.
You did 66. You think they're 66% favorite?
Yeah, because they beat them like, you know, head to head 2 times out of 3.
Well, okay,
Fair enough.
But then we're also making an assumption that Spirit beat Vitality most likely in the final. Shout out to all the Turkish fans.
Well, not necessarily, because if they lose and he has a very good series, he could win it. Like we've seen that happen more than once.
Even against Zaiwu, probably.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. What are you giving it?
I'm giving it 50%.
50% on the nose for Yanko.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Lucas, I would like to forfeit my percentage and give it to the people in Twitch chat and see what the people are thinking right now to compile the final portion of the odds. So we're going to find out what that.
Unbelievable.
Jason, I like to involve the viewers.
Vox Populi, Vox Day.
They're now Discord.
But they're already involved. They get a bet off the odds that are made
At the end.
Yeah, but I want to see it now. And these people might not have an X account or an Instagram account. Maybe they just have a Twitch account.
I think I underestimated it, to be honest.
They definitely have an HLTV account.
So Lucas has to do the poll. So that'll come up in a second, I assume. And if not, I can't hear Lucas. So if you can't do that, Lucas, and you need me to give a percentage.
How many numbers? You know, what's the number you see the most?
He's put it up. He's put it up. Here we go.
We don't see it though.
I can see.
We should see it.
It's a pretty quick poll. Here we go. What are we voting for? Donk will beat. Oh well, he's done it the wrong way around. Well, we're going to have to go.
Just give the opposite.
So he's put, will Donk be IEM Katowice MVP? Yes or no? Oh, 63% of people have gone with no.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with yes.
It is like 2 matches you have to win to get to the final. I think that's not too unreasonable.
The votes are still coming in.
And then you have to assume that Zaiwu doesn't dominate the playoffs and doesn't beat them in the final and all that stuff. I think that's pretty reasonable.
It's a fair assumption for Zaiwu.
Yeah,
So
pretty much. Like,
it's not the odds.
Watch
aren't-
Rob
But
be
wouldn't
their
it
best
be-
player in the
but
playoffs.
wouldn't it be
Yeah,
funny if,
funny
like, you know,
story.
we never had like the situation where like Simple stole MVP from Zai. I'm not actually sure. Maybe we have.
What's he doing
remember,
these
you know.
days? What's he
Who the
up
fuck
to?
knows? Who knows, man?
Who?
It's a rough night.
No, I'm just curious. Like, what's going on? I haven't heard anything out of him for a
Yeah,
while.
we
Would
haven't, I haven't beat him.
Jason's on the camp that he won't be back. Okay, so the people have voted. Will Donk be the IEM Katowice MVP? 60% have said no.
60 or 66?
60% have said no.
Okay.
40% have said yes.
So yeah, so 40% same as
You.
No.
no, the other way.
60%.
The other way,
60%. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll average that one out. Watch this. Watch this magic happen on the screen right now.
So 50 and 33%.
Don't you do it.
Bro,
There it is.
we will decide that Donk is the semifinal MVP and people are just gonna screenshot that, man. Like I
Make
swear
sure
to
you put a
God.
big smile
I
on
swear
the screenshot.
I swear to God.
You
I
want to look
should
your
have-
best when this spreads around the internet.
I shouldn't have
I don't
put-
know, man.
My
Donk
name
was
next to
unhappy about his Blast Bounty performance. He feels like Shiro should have gotten MVP. It's already falling off. He had one good year. That's it.
That's it.
All right, people at home, you can have your vote for What Are the Odds, brought to you by 1xBet on this. It'll be on X/Twitter and Instagram. And I want to let you guys know you were wrong about Train being played more than 5 times, and I was right.
How many times has it been played?
Oh, this is a bounty.
Uh,
4 times
It's
we
been-
didn't get the last one, right?
It's been played 7
I mean, since then, right?
times
Yeah,
here. I think 7
8.
times.
Oh, no. I don't know.
Here, 7 times? That many?
Well, let me check.
So how the
because-
fuck did we not get to the 5th?
I
one
don't
with
think it's
Bounty, man?
7. I think it's because someone said Train was played 8 times.
Yeah, it was like picked
and
and
every-
lost by the picked one.
Yeah,
7 times
every-
in a row or something
every
like
time.
that.
Yeah, but then it got played one more time in the 3rd map of the
Okay.
EF game. So
Yeah.
maybe it is only 5 times.
I was going to say something about the bounce off of you for the Shiro conversation. I mean, one thing we constantly come up against in like EVP and VP discussions whenever we look at Shiro, his win numbers are not great typically because it is partly that comes down to ecos. I mean, Donk's going to farm more of those, and like of course, but he's always somewhere kind of in a different stratosphere, you know, whenever it comes to those numbers. But Shiro actually, for a guy that's like clear 2nd star and all that stuff, like is fairly low. Even for an opera, you know, typically. So like that's something that just definitely kind of supports your kind of thinking about how little he's going for like the big impact plays.
Yeah.
Right? And so that just plays in part.
He's like, I said, you know, he should thank Jane for how long Jane was in the tier 1 scene, because then everyone's talking about Jane.
Yeah,
People are not talking about Shiro as much. And
Yeah.
for me, it's also just watching the games and seeing his movements on the map and the decisions that he makes. It's almost always the safest possible call,
Yeah.
right? Which, again, doesn't mean he's a bad player. Doesn't mean it's like, you know, that stuff can
Yeah.
work, but it becomes a little bit predictable as well, you
Yeah.
know? And that's why I would have liked it sometimes if he would to change his play style at least a little bit, because there would be so much space for you to make those plays, right? Because people wouldn't expect it at first, you know, then they would have to change their approach so much when they go up against your team and all of this stuff. So
Yeah. I think that
it's a little bit, you know, at times it even looks sort of egregious, like, come on, bro, just like go for it. Please just try to make a play. Like it's 3v4, there's a minute 10 seconds left, you know, try to search and find one kill, and then they're in a 3v3 and maybe they can do something. Instead, you just post it up somewhere and hoping the other team makes a mistake. Like that's it. If the other team screws up, he will probably punish that. But if they do a good job of playing their advantage, he'll just save. Like he'll be out of position to find any impact, and he'll save, and that's it.
Yeah, he's usually going to be the guy who just gets you one kill every time you're like every round you win. He's just going to get you that one kill. It can be a big impact kill or whatever, but it's usually not going to be more. Like it's always going to be just that thing, right? So, yeah.
Final topic, I suppose. Oh, we might have, but just with the playoffs vitality, we haven't spoken a lot about them. I think the ropz edition is working out pretty nicely for them overall. I like the freedom that it's given to Flamesy and Mezzy in some situations. Like ropz is more than happy to take a lot of those anchor spots. That's what he likes to do, and the lurky boy stuff. So it's actually given Mezzy and Flamesy more responsibility across different types of maps. And again, another little tidbit that I got today by talking to the players. One of the things that Flames and Apex were attesting to is the work ethic that he brings, in the sense that he's always in the prac room, he's always on the server, he's always coming up with things, and that not only is helping to drive them, because first of all, if he's sitting in the room, you know, jacking off watching anime, you feel lazy, but also
Happens more than you think.
it's inspiring. It's inspiring to the
It's
others.
inspiring.
It kind of not the jacking off and watching anime part. Having ropz in the server and coming up with all these ideas and being there to always talk Counter-Strike about kind of driving everybody in that direction. And people at home are probably going to take that statement and they're going to be like, well, they should be like that anyway. They're playing professional Counter-Strike, but
It's not. It's not like that.
But it's also
Not always like
but it's also having kind of that initiative about it, right? I mean, ropz is always going to be the guy who's like super technical about everything, and he's just going to come up with all these weird things to do in a game that is just like 5% is going to make your game 5% better, or even probably less than that, But he comes up with enough of those, and it's just going to make a difference, right? So. It's something we know about ropz. We've known for a long time.
So it sounds like he's a nice fit over there. The thing is, within the interviews and like with ropz when he's at an event, he always feels like he's in his own bubble. But I think we've all seen ropz when he's a bit more outgoing or a bit more trolly. But I just don't think we get that version of him. No. I think that probably with the whole car situation, which I'm sure he wants to completely fucking forget it.
Fuck, man. I don't even know why that's a thing. Like,
people just giving flack to it, right? It's so crazy. And it's like he's a young man. Like he's not an old head by any means. He's a very, very good Counter-Strike player who's dedicated his entire life to this. He got in a position where he was able to buy something that was a dream for him, and then he was able to do it. And then people just shitting on him, and it's like,
who the fuck cares? It's his fault for allowing it to get to him. And like,
I mean,
come on now. No,
to be honest, I kind of agree with it.
It was just a meme at the start, bro. Why are you laughing at, you little shit? It's just a meme. People were memeing, as soon as he got a Porsche, he started playing like shit. Then if someone asked him, like, he would get all defensive about it and stuff instead of just laughing it off. Like, of course, there's no correlation between his play and the fact he got a new automobile, Chad.
No, but see, that when you step back from it, right, then, but that's the same with all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that the thing is...
But that's how you have to approach it then. No, you just have to be fuck it. Like, who cares?
How many times in his career has ropz, other than the start when other pro players were accusing him of cheating, he had to go to the face of others. Other than that, how many times has he ever been negatively portrayed in the spotlight?
Never.
Exactly. So it's like...
But he was, I mean, at the beginning, he had to get pretty hard.
He wasn't negatively portrayed. People were just memeing about it.
But the thing is, people on the internet are mean, bro.
They're
nasty on the internet, man.
Yeah, that's why you ignore them. Like, why would you care what some random says, like, from who knows wherever?
I understand if you get mad about, like, okay, people are shitting on you for bad performance or whatever. You have a shit game, and then like everybody's like, you're a shit player and whatever. What? Did I say that? Or?
No, I did. No, Chad.
Okay. I understand if that impacts you, but if it's something as stupid as that, where you're like, it cannot possibly be serious, like people cannot possibly mean it, and if they do mean it, they're just stupid. Like, why would you even take that into account, So like, just getting it, I kind of agree with that part. Like, I also get
these
like
fucking Eastern Europeans, Jason. They know nothing about mental health.
No, but I let shit like that get to me as well. Like when somebody said something like super stupid on
just
YouTube or
bottle
whatever.
it all up inside and get cancer like everyone else when they deal with their issues.
See, that's the healthiest way to do it.
That's how you're supposed to do with it.
I've been saying that for years.
But usually it's never the stupid stuff that gets to me. It's never the like egregiously mental things that get to me. It's always something that
has a little bit of truth to it.
It has a little bit of truth to it. Whatever it is, that just gets to you at some point. Or like things that get to me is like people being like really stupid and just like completely overlooking absolute like things that are absolutely obvious. So like that sort of thing.
See, look how mean people are. Chad really went downhill after the transplant, man.
But that's one of those things. Like, how can you let that get to you?
What's he mean?
But why would you let that?
But why did he say that to me, man?
But why?
I'm a human being, just like everyone else.
Like, he's just trying to elicit a reaction from you.
Well, he got it, man.
There you go. So you let him in. He's won. You've lost.
It's over. It's all over.
Yeah.
Show forehead. What are you talking about? My hairline's fucking great.
It's pretty good.
That's what happens when you pay a couple $1,000s for a guy to fucking take the hair follicles out the back of your head and put it in the front of your head.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy,
That's nice.
Should we be done?
We can be.
Well, we can keep talking if you want. It's 9:30.
I don't know.
We've done 2.5 hours.
What else? Well, what else do we want to talk about?
Yeah, what else is going on? Anything?
Holy shit, Chad! There's a bracket now in the Bitcoin. Like,
VRS.
Did you do that?
No, I didn't do that. Lucas did that. But this is what happens when you have a producer.
When we get some sponsors, maybe we'll have one. A producer too.
Maybe one day we'll have some sponsors. I did say 2025 was going to be the year we got sponsors.
We will.
I don't know. I feel this crossover. Do you think it's done us any favors? Do you think we're going to get more viewers?
Yeah. Absolutely. You know, the exposure. That's what
least
it's all
10 more,
about.
yeah.
There's gonna be...
I want to say something to HLTV and Talking Counter viewers because I'm starting to read this a bit more in comments. People like, why don't they have players
Why
on?
would you do that?
So with HLTV confirmed, I think with players, there's some who you know are going to be good for a whole episode, and there's some who you take a risk on, and they're not great. It's hard to get stuff out of them. So what we need to do is be a bit more tactful with who we pick and how long we have them for. But also the other problem that we run into is because we do it live, right? It's not pre-recorded with HLTV confirmed. So if a player isn't available in the time slot that we have, because we not only have to worry about me, Prof Striker, we also have to worry about our producer and make sure everybody's available for that, then we can't get the player. So it does get a bit tougher from that perspective. And then our perspective, we're talking counter in terms of we do pre-recorded, but we're at an event like this. So we tried to get Flames the other night, but then he had a team dinner and then he had the VOD review. And then, you know, if we want to get them, okay, what time do we have available before we have to start casting? Are we on the same shift? Where are we going to do it? Right now, we're in my hotel room with a flipped up bed.
Are you using the fucking HLTV app?
Yeah, dog.
You got to be one of the only people in the world who do that.
Yeah, dog. I liked it. It's pretty good. Except there's like a bug right now where I can't like log in.
I'm not even sure if anybody's maintaining that.
And then, I figure the only way to get people to maintain is to actually fucking use it. So I figured I'd be one of the people using it.
I mean, that's a very idealistic way to go.
It is. It is. I get punished for that frequently. But you know, it's nice. I like it.
Yeah. Any cool comments, Chad? Any nice comments in there?
People are just asking that, saying there is an app ?
That's the thing. Like most people forgot. Look, I don't actually know if we're doing anything about it. I don't think so.
Meanwhile, they have like 2 guys on payroll, just working 24/7 on the app.
Pro DB. That's
but if you just use the type on the phone, like as through a browser, like you're gonna get a good phone experience.
I use desktop on the phone.
Sometimes I do too because you just have to. But
I do the same. Yeah,
navigate.
I think the app's great.
Do we want to do any men's?
Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Do we want to do any men's health like we do on Talking Counter?
You got a lot of bullying at the beginning. I guess you have something to say.
No, I'm good.
Mental health.
I have a strong mental health compared to these two degenerates.
You can say for the one man's bullying is another man's just sort of forcing around. Just boys will be boys, you know. The world out there, man, it can be a cruel place, as Chad has found out, reading comments on the internet. You know, guys, it's not all sunshine and rainbows out there, right?
Right.
You need to be ready for some tough love.
Even $6 million in Chad's bank account can't defend him from a little emotion.
If I had $6 million,
you're the $1 million man, so
it's true.
I wish I had $6 million.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
So yeah, embrace the suck, because it's only
why would you need $6
after
million?
the suck that you can appreciate the good.
How does that improve your life drastically?
If I had $6 million,
would you still be casting Counter-Strike?
Yes, but I'll tell you what I would be doing differently.
Yeah.
Actually, I'd be doing everything the same.
He would run a $2 million Australian-only tournament
to get all the VRS points
to get the team into the top 10 in terms of the VRS points.
No, I'd like a house with a garden.
But that's not $6 million. Though.
No, but I you know, one and a half,
but
two.
It's nice to have a rainy day.
$2 million for a house with a garden. That's kind of a
Chad only accepts oceanfront, so those are in the 7 figures,
want like a
right?
Sydney penthouse too, or some shit. What do you want?
Sydney, just in Perth. I'd like to be in the Golden Triangle, maybe up in Swanbourne or Claremont. That'd be nice.
Oh, Claremont.
Fremantle.
Not like Jason, nice as well, who lives in the bush.
Is everyone happy?
I'm very happy.
I'm happy.
Yeah, I'm fulfilled.
Anything they want to go for their chest?
No, I feel great. My coffee is really keeping me going.
Nice. That's great. Thanks for that, Jess. It was tasty.
It was, like chocolate mocha.
All right. This has been an episode of HLTV Confirmed meets Talking Counter. We'll be back with episodes probably on both next week at different times. Quick shout out to the sponsors, OneXBet and
Why don't you do one at the same time with both of us? Like hosting both.
At the same time, that'd be fun.
That'd be fun.
I just wanted to say thanks for having us, Chad. It was a pleasure.
How does that work?
I don't know.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. Hope everyone enjoyed tonight's show, and good night.
Enjoy the playoffs.
Peace.
one thing remains the same. Victories with 1xbet.
Sell in-game items at the best prices in just a couple of clicks. We are the biggest instant sell service for in-game items like Counter-Strike 2, Dota 2, and Rust. Easy selling process and instant withdrawal of funds to the most popular payment methods. More than 140,000 deals and 50,000 active sellers every month. Use promo code HLTV5 and get a 5% bonus on the sale of your skins. Skin Place. Sell items now.
It was more than a game. It was everything. Every single emotion on display. Not a moment missed. This was CSGO through the lens.